On this upcoming Attractions episode, we got two-time Emmy nominee Fabian Wagner joining us for the show. We talk Game of Thrones, Justice League, and more. Can't wait for you to hear it. Plus, trailers for Mortal Kombat and Luca, Army of the Dead, Cruella, and more. Also, we're going to talk WandaVision and a review for The Little Things. All this and a whole lot more on a jam-packed episode of Midnight Double Feature.
Tell you what, you blew out my fucking eardrums with that Mortal Kombat.
I went back, but I think it wasn't enough. But we'll find out in the episode. And ladies and gentlemen, that's how we're starting it. Guys, this is much later in the week than we're used to recording. It feels like an eternity since we recorded last, but really it's only been like 2.5 weeks. Z-Dogs. Is that nickname going to stick? It might. Who knows? How are you?
I'm good, dude. I'm good. I'm swell. Yeah, this is much later in the week than we do record because, you know, like we're sitting on this interview, this amazing interview that we've had for ages now. And, you know, we were just you messaged me earlier and you were just like, hey, can we record a bit later? I was like, yeah, sure. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm dying for people to hear this. But yeah, I'm good, dude. How you doing?
I'm good. That interview is particularly great. As a recorded, guys, Fabian, I hope we're pronouncing it right. But yeah, he goes, talking about them filming Game of Thrones. It's like, I've got this actually cool photo that explains this. Let me find it. And for like 20 minutes of the interview, like while interviewing us, he's looking for a photo and we don't know is an exclusive grab or not. It might be. I haven't seen it anywhere. And the whole time we're on bated breath, like, please have it. And at the end of the interview, just giving you guys a taste of things, he brings it up. And if you're a Patreon member, you'll get to see that. And it's really great. Don't worry, we describe it for all you peasants who aren't subscribed to the Patreon. But it's such a great interview. It is without a doubt my favorite interview that we've done. Not just because of his amazing credits, but he was so insightful with his answers. Like, he really took his time with it and gave us a bit, even like with a question that, you know, maybe didn't have to go in depth. He went the extra mile anyways. Like, you could tell he was really switched on and engaged. I could tell he was having fun with the interview. And not saying our other guests haven't been, but he was particularly special. He was a really fun interview, man. That's my favorite so far.
And there's some like slight kind of like hubris here, but like after most of the questions, he'd say, "Oh, that's a great question, guys." And I'm just like, man, like for someone who gets interviewed on like, you know, all the time, right? Like his interviews have appeared in magazines and stuff like that, dude. Like, you know, it's crazy. But like for someone who gets interviewed like that, and then you get, you know, the whole good question, guys. It's just like, oh my God, yes, thank you so much. Thank you for validating me.
I think if I remember correctly, I counted twice where he said it on air. I think there was another time outside. But like, that is such an honor to get that from someone like him. Also, like, he's pretty, from what I've experienced, from my limited knowledge of seeing director of photographies in like the public eye. Is that the right plural word? Director of photographies? We're going to go with director of photographers. Cinematographers. We'll just go with that.
Directors of photography.
Yeah, that's right. You pluralize the first. Guys, it's an English lesson now. You're welcome. You get a lot of value from this episode. But yeah, I haven't seen a lot that go in the public eye as much as he does. Like sometimes with interviews, they'll stick to like their niche magazines and stuff. But I've seen him do like interviews with like some more mainstream outlets, which I think is a little bit rare. From my experience. So that's like, I don't know, it just makes it extra cool of a grab to have him. So I don't know, man, that was a really good catch. Shout outs to you for locking that one down, because that one was real. Oh, fuck, guys, we have so much to talk about, but we keep hyping up this interview. Should we just go to it right now?
Yeah, let's just throw to it. Honestly, like let's just get right into it. Let's stop burying the lead, and then, you know, if we do want to discuss anything after, we can. That way, you know, the audience has some kind of like context. But like you said, Matt, I just kind of want to hammer home what you said. So if you're listening to this right now, that means that the video component of this interview is live right now on our exclusive membership Green Room, the Green Room. It's just $5 a month, and you get access to bonus episodes and videos of our interviews. But basically, if you want to check out that awesome exclusive Game of Thrones photo, that's all up there. And our interview with Fabian, it was awesome. It was fantastic. So if you want to see the interview out of context, outside of this episode and just that interview, check it out. It's head to patreon.com/midnight double feature. But yeah, like that's pretty awesome too. Just to be able to have that video.
Yeah, and for those who are joining us for the first time, a bunch of other awesome interviews, including recently Simon Bird from Inbetweeners, the director of Nicolas Cage's Willy's Wonderland. What was the other
also,
thing? And Raja Gosling, Scooby-Doo. The Nelms Brothers. Yeah. Do we have the video for that?
We don't have one for the Nelms Brothers because we hadn't figured out how to use video yet.
But if you go through it for free, you can hear that interview on a previous episode.
The next 4 weeks, and this is a bit of a teaser, the next 4 weeks we have guests. So the next 2 upcoming Attractions episodes we have guests. So I recorded one. Actually, man, I haven't had the chance to tell you this outside of the episode, but I recorded one today with someone. It's not, he's not as massive as like Fabian Wagner, but still awesome to talk to. So, we'll be announcing that a bit later on if you follow our socials. And the other one is one that I've kind of teased plenty of times. It's Sean O'Connell from Cinema Blend. He's coming back. That's after the release of the Snyder Cut. So that's probably sometime towards the end of March, early April. So yeah, man, we're doing well, I think, in the guest sort of arena, which is awesome.
But let's not bury the lead any longer. Ladies and gentlemen, here's our interview with Fabian Wagner.
Mr. Fabian Wagner, welcome to the show. Welcome to Midnight Double Feature. We're absolutely honored to have you and just absolutely geek out about your filmography. This is an amazing opportunity for us. First off, between your amazing TV resume and your equally as awesome film resume, not to mention you're a 2-time Emmy-nominated cinematographer, which is incredible and not something that we get to do quite often, is talk to any Emmy-nominated cinematographers. I'm sure you're very much in demand and probably come across more than a few offers. How do you decide which offers to take and which offers to turn down? Is there a personal element that attracts you to certain projects?
That's an interesting question. Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me and for saying all these nice things.
That's how we butter you up.
That's an interesting question because I did a masterclass the other day and we were talking about the same thing, and I have never really sort of consciously thought about that. Really, I love working and I love being on set, and so I guess to answer this question honestly, I would have to say that I have taken jobs in the past that maybe I shouldn't have taken, because I wasn't really maybe that into the script or whatever reason it was, but I took them because it was work and because I love shooting and I love being on set. And it's interesting because, it did keep me working. And I said to the students, I said that, having made that choice, probably career-wise, I could have probably waited and get something more interesting for my career. But the thing is, you can never look back.
A few days ago,
you can never look back. And so you kind of look at the positive things and you think that, I've taken a lot of positive things away from those jobs too, a lot of experience, probably met some interesting people and et cetera, et cetera. So nowadays, it's an interesting thing. I have right now taken a job, which I can't talk about, but I've taken it. The main reason I've taken it because of my director, who's a friend of mine, and I've taken it out of loyalty. He really wanted me to come and do this job with him. I've done it out of friendship and out of loyalty and to him because we work well together and he's a good friend. And I've turned down another couple of jobs that would have been very interesting, I guess. And so, it's always, I guess you always have to find that balance somehow. I'm not sure whether that answers the question, but
no, absolutely. That was such an amazing and honest answer. It was
very honest.
It's very refreshing that you get such an honest answer. So yeah, I really appreciate that. Matt, you have a question?
Yeah. So a bit about me that I haven't told you yet. So I'm an emerging short filmmaker myself. Nothing like anything you've ever done, I'm sure. But looking through your IMDb,
I've done a lot of short films.
Well, actually, that's what I was going to get into because I noticed in your IMDb you've got a ton of short film listed there from your early days, in particular, and I found that personally as really encouraging. So I was just wondering, like, first of all, like, how did you find yourself climbing up the ladder from getting there to where you are now? And also, any of these shorts online that we could find, and is there any that you would recommend that we check out?
Wow. These are good questions, guys, I have to say.
We spent some time.
Thank you.
We spent some time.
This is not just the usual questions. I like it. So, first of all, everyone's got to start somewhere. I've done a ton of short films, and probably there's only 10% of the shorts I've done are probably on IMDb. I also love the format of short films. I mean, I still do short films now when I can, and when I get an offer for an interesting script, I love to do them now. So I love short films, just as a format. And obviously, yeah, you've got to learn. You got to take your first steps somewhere and sort of learn the craft, I guess. And short films is a great, is a great engine for that. So yeah, there's tons, and it's great short films. You spend a few days doing them, and you finish them, and then you move on to the next one. So
I suppose there's a little sense of rewarding where, like, it's a quick job. You can get on to the next one, and that sense of accomplishment when you finish it, it's like probably a good like motivator, I imagine, for someone like you who's probably booked so regularly, right?
Well, it's it depends. There's a very fine line. I mean, I had a long time in my career where I was literally booked out all the time. From probably when I first started, as when I did my first DOP gig on a BBC on a bigger show, which was in 2006, I think, and then probably through till sort of 2014, 2015, I didn't really stop. Actually 2016, 17, really. And then, for about 10 or even a bit more, I didn't really stop. And then, it's funny, the older you get. I mean, I'm turning 43 this year. I just had a baby. My mum passed away a couple of years ago. My dad passed away a long time ago, 10 years ago, sort of when my career just started. But he was quite old. My mum was pretty young still, so she passed away quite, not surprisingly, but, more of a shock. And so you suddenly start to rethink your life and your, things that you want to do, things that you should be doing. I mean, I love my job, and I'm very grateful for all the things that I've done. And hopefully I've got, more to do, more to come. But equally as much, I'm now at a stage where I'm really, I cherish being at home with my little baby and my wife, and I actually don't want to be away. I actually don't want to work sometimes. I want to, because suddenly you think, well, it gets all of us one day, and I don't really want to just get up there or down there and be like, well, I've done nothing but work. I've missed everything else. So, you kind of sort of start to rethink. No, I don't want to drag this conversation down.
No,
that's again another honest one. Like, wow, like it sounds like a really hectic period of your life for you there. That's wow. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Very reflective. I really appreciate that answer, Fabian. I'm going to move on to a question that you might have heard a couple times, so not as unique as our first two, I guess. So obviously there's been this ongoing debate for a good long while now about digital filmmaking versus film. Like, you have the great Roger Deakins showing his love for digital cinema these days with 1917. And cinematographers like the great Robert Richardson and Hoyte van Hoytema championing film. I was wondering, with most of your projects being shot digitally, not all, most of them, which side do you fall on? I mean, do you get a say as to which format to shoot on, or does it mostly come down to budget and time? And is it up to the director, or do you get a say?
No, sure. I mean, yes, DPs get a say. Probably right now, not as much as we would like, and not as much as we should have a say in things. Obviously, when you talk about Roger or Bob Richardson, those guys are a different level to the level that I'm on. So, when Bob says he wants to shoot film, he wants to shoot film. But then, Bob just showed a movie last year, which was digital.
Yeah.
And he actually really enjoyed it because I spoke to him after, and he actually had a really good time shooting digital. So, and then you've got people like Roger who, and you also have to say that those guys are masters of film, right? I mean, Roger has been shooting film for decades, and he's incredible with it. And yes, he has now found his love for digital, which is great. Which just shows again what an amazing DP he is, because he's so adjustable and
so versatile.
Versatile and stays with what's coming. I am not as elaborate. I am not as good, and I personally, to put it bluntly, I don't care what I shoot on as long as it looks good, as long as I can make it look good. Because there's so many implications that you have to consider like you said, when it comes from a budget point of view. Production is the main point of view these days. Plus, also there's shows that you just could not do on film. Like, for example, Game of Thrones is not a show that you can shoot on film.
Yeah,
there's no way I could have shot any of my episodes on Game of Thrones, Battle of the Bastards, The Long Night, The Bells, Hard Home. I could have not shot any of those episodes on film purely because I was shooting 3 or 4 cameras all the time. I mean, it would have been a nightmare production-wise. It would have been super expensive. It would have just not worked. Plus on a show like that, where you have to have this consistent look throughout, you have 5 different directors, you have alternating crews shooting alternating days. You have to be able to see things quickly, what the other guys are doing, to be able to keep that look. So those shows aren't possible on film. Saying that, I love shooting film. I think it's, I've been very lucky in my career that for the first 10 years of my career, I was able to shoot film, and I shot a lot of film. I'd love to shoot a bit more film now, and I'd love to have a bit more of a say sometimes to shoot film. But, there's commercials that we still shoot on film. Obviously, Justice League we did on film, which was great.
Yeah.
So
70 millimeter, right? I mean, that's a huge format. Yeah, that's insane.
And so, I think it's just a matter of, like everything, things take a bit of time, and we've been through this transition period in the last 10 years where, I always say we had the best, 2010, you had the best cameras, the best film cameras. They were completely steady. They were completely silent. You could shoot up to however many hundreds of frames with them. You had a perfect film stock, Vision 3 Kodak. After 110 years of filmmaking, they developed this craft to its absolute best. And at the very time when they come to the top of that craft, they mess it all up and they start from scratch with a new format. And it's ridiculous. It's sad, really. And so then came the whole 2-3 years of shooting Sony 900s with Pro 35 adapters and all those things, which was terrible and horrible. And now, for a few years now, we've come to a point with the Alexa or similar cameras, now the Sony Venice and stuff like that, where most people actually can't tell what that movie was shot on. So from that perspective, it's pretty incredible what's happened in the last 10 years. And but yeah, I just wish that hopefully that we come to a point with production where we as creative filmmakers have a bit more of a say in what we're doing and how we're shooting it, rather than it just being dictated by the budget.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. I mean, it's getting harder and harder to really, really see what the difference is. I mean, for people like Matt and I mean, we can spot the differences, but yeah, absolutely. Like sometimes, someone's not going to appreciate what's shot on film versus what's shot on digital. Fabian, we're gonna circle around to, I mean, probably the big one that's out next month, Justice League. And we're not going to spend too much time on it, but we did want to chat about it because it's such a strange and unprecedented sort of situation. You've spoken about how you met your wife on Justice League back in 2016 and how important it was for you. Coming back for the reshoots for the Snyder Cut must have been incredibly an emotional and personal time for you, especially since this Justice League, again, it's just so unprecedented. When you were on set doing the initial photography on Snyder Cut, on this new additional photography, was there a sense of triumphant sort of achievement amongst the cast and crew, as if this was a second chance for people to see what you guys always intended. Yeah, and it's just such a triumphant moment for Zach as well. Did you guys feel like you were sort of achieving something coming back?
Oh, you hit a very bitter spot there, because I didn't do those reshoots this year, late last year, because of the COVID crisis, because I didn't travel to the States because I live in the UK, and obviously they were reshooting in Los Angeles, and they were shooting for 2-3 days. I think 2 days Zach was shooting for, and so I actually wasn't there for those. So I spoke to Zach beforehand. We had a long chat about it all, but yeah, it was bittersweet. I was super glad. I'm obviously super happy and glad that this whole thing is happening, and it was very sad that I couldn't be there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I always thought. Yeah. Okay. I thought they filmed it in the UK. All right. Okay. Fair enough.
No, because obviously with Corona right now, it's very difficult.
It's tough. Absolutely. Matt, you had a follow up.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to when you were shooting Justice League, at least. In those early days of like when the project came to you, so something with Zach's like usual vision or whatever. He's a very particularly visual director. When you see a Zack Snyder film, it 9 times out of 10 it looks like a Zack Snyder film. They often do stand out, which I'm sure as a DOP that must be really exciting for you to like sink your teeth into. So going into Justice League, like first of all, like how much did you let the previous films in this franchise, like Man of Steel or Batman v Superman, how much did you let that influence you, and how did you sort of come across with like developing that style? Because I'd imagine like with introducing so many new characters like the Flash and Aquaman, that would have created a bunch of interesting visual challenges, because you had to kind of create your own, visual language for these films, I would assume, right?
Sure. I mean, to be fair, I didn't let myself get influenced by any of the other previous films. Obviously, I know all of Zach's films because I've always been a fan, and I've always been a fan of Larry Fong. And so, it's just a pure opportunity to work with Zach was pretty incredible. I did watch BVS because that was just, I think, had it come out when we were prepping, I think, or it was just about to come out. So I went to see a sort of a preview thing, I think, before it actually came out. And just to see that, because obviously it's a follow-on movie. But no, I didn't let myself get influenced by it at all. It's pretty easy, with someone like Zach, who's so creative and so collaborative and so visual, it's pretty easy to sort of come up with the stuff that you're going to shoot pretty quickly, It's not like you have to write it for ages. It's a very organic process almost.
That's cool. I'm going to use this also as a segue of this question, but so with Justice League, from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I get the vibe that it was the type of film that's like primarily shot on like a soundstage or a green screen studio, while like a lot of other projects in your previous works, like The Crown or Game of Thrones, like they're actually like it's clearly shot on location, some beautiful locations and stuff. I'm just wondering, like when you're dealing with things like sound stages, green, and especially green screen, how does it change your approach as from a cinematic perspective? Like, are there advantages or disadvantages that usually come to mind, like that affect your approach between the two, like shooting in the physical location and more the studio environment?
Sure. Well, I mean, Justice League was shot probably more on stage than anything else I've done before, but obviously I've done a lot of special effects, visual effects, and green screen work. Surprisingly, a lot of the Game of Thrones stuff is shot on stage, and we were actually shooting quite a lot of Justice League on the backlot, for example, where we built certain exterior locations and had certain things. So, it was a good mixture, but obviously what was the difference with Justice League was there was a few sets we were just purely green, or you only had a few set pieces for real, and the rest was green screen, so that makes it different. As to the preference between shooting, I mean, like I said, and I've said it so many times, it was so amazing to shoot Justice League and to actually be there and be the DP for that, I loved every single day. And like I love every other day that I'm on a set, whether it's on a location or on a studio. There's certain challenges that come with shooting green screen. I always love those challenges because I think they're very interesting. From a creative point of view, I love collaborating with the visual effects department. I love collaborating with the actors. I love creating a lighting setup that will later influence the visual effects and how the visual effects work into the on-set lighting, which I think is a really interesting.
Are those conversations you have in pre-production about how you light it to affect the like CGI and special effects, or do they like try and work around what you like sort of put together?
Well, I think that depends on your work process, and it depends on your relationship with the visual effects. I think you get the most interesting and most well done visual effects when the visual effects blend into your lighting that you're creating on set. I think there's a lot of times you can see where the two are clashing, and that's when it doesn't work, I think. And so Game of Thrones is a very good example. I mean, Justice League is anyway, but Game of Thrones is a very good example because it's a lot of locations work with visual effects, and you can really see that the interactive lighting that we do and the lighting setups that we do and everything, they're taking all of that into consideration, and they're building this world around what we're building on set. And that's one of the reasons why the visual effects, I think, look so stunning in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, seeing as we're already here, we're talking about Game of Thrones. Let's just dive into it a bit more. In recent years, the line between what's possible on TV versus film has totally been blurred. We're hearing more and more about how we're in the golden age of TV, with A-list actors now signing on for more and more TV projects. That line is basically gone, much like the battle between digital and film. But in my opinion, I think your work on Game of Thrones especially really contributed to that in the best ways. Audiences had never really seen anything done on TV quite like what you guys pulled off in Game of Thrones, especially your episodes. Like you said, Hardhome, The Battle of the Bastards, The Winds of Winter, The Long Night. They're just 4 episodes out of the 8 that you shot for the show. And they're constantly in the conversation for some of the best TV episodes of all time. I mean, I think I've seen Hardhome and Battle of the Bastards, especially, probably about 15 times each. I mean, those are amazing, incredible episodes. So when you're on set for these episodes that were on such a large scale, did you ever kind of think to yourself just how much of an impact your episodes in particular would have on the way audiences consume entertainment? Like, did you actually have a inkling as to, man, like this is going to change TV. This is going to change the way people view TV?
Never. I've never thought that. I mean, you sort of think about it maybe afterwards, obviously now that it's happened, but no, I've never thought that. When we were shooting or prior or even after we finished shooting, for example, Battle of the Bastards, I never thought it would have such an impact. I never thought it would become that big. I don't think about it that way because it can just as well go the other way.
Right.
And so, what's the point? No, I never think about it that way. I don't choose jobs because I think they might turn out to be great.
Yeah.
And I also sometimes don't choose jobs because I think hopefully they might not be crap, but they turn out to be crap. That's not the way I choose jobs.
That's a really healthy way to approach it, actually. So let's talk one-ers, because you participated in achieving these long takes over a few projects. We saw a fantastic one towards the end of Overlord, and a few in Game of Thrones. In particular, the Battle of the Bastards has an amazing 50-second kind of like long unbroken shot. How much work goes into preparing these shots, and do you yourself and the director, in this case Miguel Sapochnik, get any sleep before the night before?
Oh yeah. I mean, the times of no sleep are long gone for me. I'm a big fan of one-ers, but then you kind of have to explain as well. I love one-ers, but there's a very fine line between the shot that's just long and showing something off, where there's a shot that actually tells a story. And so I don't like doing a one-er just for the purpose of doing a one-er.
Right. You wanted to tell a story, absolutely.
I think there needs to be a lot more to it. And so, that's why, for example, the long shot in the beginning of Overlord, when he's in the plane and the plane explodes and he jumps out, we did that as a one-er, or in the Battle of the Bastards, because we just really, I think those two really draw you into the story and really take you in as an audience member. It makes it feel more immersive. Hopefully, that was the idea behind it anyway. And yes, they're tricky sometimes. I mean, Battle of the Bastards, wasn't tricky for me because I had worked it all out beforehand. But yeah, you have to be very careful because, obviously you have a lot of different factors that can create problems. And the main thing is, you don't want to hurt anyone on set. So, if you have live horses and stuntmen and you've got Kit Harington and the camera operator running through all of that melee, that if anything goes wrong, that could be pretty bad. So you have to be very careful and have to prepare it really well. So we prepared that very, very well. We rehearsed it for a long time, building up the stages up to what it eventually became, to be sure that we could do it safely.
That's amazing.
You've kind of touched on it a bit there, but we keep talking about Battle of the Bastards, so I just have to ask you, probably my favorite shot of all the Game of Thrones is that really iconic one of Jon Snow, and you got all those horses and stuff coming right at him. It's so memorable. It's absolutely breathtaking. I'm just curious, and I know you've touched on it maybe a little bit here, but can you break down that specific shot? What sort of work does go into that? I look at that how the fuck did they do that? It's all done practically, right? So how far is the camera away from Kit Harington, and how's that come together? How is that put together?
How do you ensure that Kit's safe when there's a ton of horses running at him?
Yeah, and the camera's safe too, I guess.
Well, that was the easiest shot. That was the easiest shot of the whole scene.
No way.
That was the easiest shot of the whole scene. Let me just see, because I can screen share something with you. Yeah, that was the easiest shot. That was the easiest shot of the whole scene because that's a very old camera trick that has nothing. There's nothing to it. It's basically you're on a super long lens. I think we were on a 10:1, so I think it was an Ingenieur 224-290, and then we put a doubler on it. So we must have been on something like a 600mm lens, basically. And we were way back from Kit, who was standing in the middle of the field. And the horses, it was all done for real. The horses, we had about 60, 70 horses. And they were all just running towards him, but from very far away. And they did stop probably about 10 meters before him, or maybe a little bit closer. But it was very controlled, and there was no danger to him. Maybe they didn't even stop. Maybe they just were riding around him at the end. I can't actually remember. But that was a very simple. It's a very simple old camera trick, and that's definitely one of my favorite shots. And I'm glad that it worked so well.
It's stunning. It's beautiful. In our podcast community, sort of Facebook page, I posted a little bit of a tease that we're speaking to you, and I didn't mention you by name, but I said this. Our next guest is responsible for this shot, and it was a GIF of that particular moment, which is absolutely mind blowing. I love that moment.
It's so memorable. Which is why it's kind of funny to me that that's one of the more easier shots to do for you.
Oh, it definitely was. It definitely was. That wasn't a tricky one.
You got me really curious. What you pulling up there? Yeah,
actually,
the suspense is killing me.
I'm not sure whether I can find it. I thought I had a picture I had a behind the scenes picture of exactly that setup. But keep going, and if I find it.
Yeah. Well, we were actually just about to move on to Overlord. Matt's got a question about Overlord because Matt and I loved Overlord. It just completely took us by surprise. I'd never heard of Julius Avery before. Come to find out that he's Australian, which is amazing. But talk to us about Overlord. Matt, you have a specific question about Overlord.
Just in particular, in addition to us just loving that film, the aesthetics of that film, it's such a beautiful film. I really love I don't know if I'm going to use the words right here, but I love like the use of like the contrast and the color and how the actors just sort of pop out of like the darkness and shadows. I'm probably not describing it right, but I'm just curious, how would you describe the visual style of Overlord? And what were your goals going into that project?
Before you do, Fabian, I just wanted to kind of follow up because it's a war film mixed with a horror, and this both of those two genres you don't see quite often. So, how did you approach that as well?
Well, I think that's exactly it. I mean, again, you've just hit a bittersweet spot there for me.
Oh no!
Because I was obviously it was great to meet Julius, and he had a really cool vision for that film. We actually, we connected in LA a long time ago, and we spent many nights in a dingy bar in LA talking about the movie, and we were having a lot of beers while we were doing it. It was a lot of good fun, and I think we kind of developed the sort of language for that film there, and that was even before he had offered me the job. So I think I was just pitching to get the job.
Wow!
While we were getting drunk, talking about how this film should look, and that's when we talked about the Wagner for the beginning as well. I hadn't even read the script; he just told me about the opening idea, and I was saying we were talking about this Wagner, which was very funny, and so. And then he, I think we both wanted to make a war/zombie movie that had a look that hasn't been really done before, and every war movie you see has got the desaturated look, so we were going away from that. So we wanted to have something where the color really pops, something that has a really interesting mix of colors and everything. The bittersweet thing was I prepped that movie for a long time. We prepped for a few months, and we started shooting. We had shot the whole opening sequence, I think the first sort of 10, 15 minutes, when I had a phone call from my mother that she was diagnosed with cancer and that she wasn't doing very well.
Oh, man.
And so I decided, because she was in Germany and we were shooting in the UK, and so I decided that I didn't know what was going to happen then, so I decided that I need to step away from the film and actually be there for my mum. So I left the movie after only 20 days of shooting, I think. And Laurie Rose, a friend of mine, very good DP, took over, which was a very tough job for him because he obviously stepped in without any, prep. I prepped the whole thing and everything. But I had a very good crew. I had my usual gaffer with me. And so they were great and they kept it going. And then I stepped away for a couple of months, was in Germany with my mum, who had operations and everything. And she actually recovered after that for a while. And so I managed to came back for the last 3-4 days of shooting for the movie. I came back and finished it that way. But it was a very strange experience, the whole thing.
Wow. I got someone very close to me in my life who's gone through something very similar with their mum. So I really feel to that. Like, wow. And I'm sorry we keep bringing up these bittersweet moments for you, my friend. I'm really sorry. But you did work on the plane sequence. That was like probably one of your main things you shot, right?
I shot the whole opening. I think it was the first 13, 14 minutes was all mine.
Well, that scene in particular, like just like
water, and he comes out of the water and he starts going off into the forest, and that's when in the forest, somewhere in the forest, that's when Laurie took over, and then I came back for a few other things later on. With
that scene, because I actually wanted to ask about that, so I'm glad I got that part right. So I'm wondering, like, how much practical effects you guys use there, because I would have assumed there was a lot of CGI, but from my understanding, there are a lot of practical effects involved throughout the whole project. So would you mind just like talking about working with the scenes in the mix with practical and digital effects and
well, I think I always use as much practical effects as possible. Personally, that's my preference. That's something that I think that's one reason why the stuff works well. Hopefully, is because of using practical effects. Something that I really like. So we built a plane on a gimbal. We had a game plane on a gimbal. Obviously, we had green screen outside because of what you had to see outside. But then, all the explosions and everything were done with interactive lighting and also I had, whether it was flamethrowers or flame bars that went up to simulate explosions. I mean, I do a lot of, all of my stuff is always done with as much practical lighting, which obviously you have to enhance then with lighting, with interactive lighting, but all of it has as much practical effects as possible. I've just found a picture, so I'm just going to see whether I can screen share this.
Yeah,
with
please.
Awesome. That's
hopefully, cool. I'm pretty sure it's got it on.
Oh, you've got it disabled, so if you enable it.
Yep. One sec. There you go, Fabian. You should be able to do it now.
There you go.
Oh wow. Holy shit.
So you can just see Kit standing there in the middle of the frame there.
Yeah.
And that camera in the foreground on the left, that was David Morgan, our big camera operator. He was on a long lens there. And so you can see he's a long way away from Kit. And I mean, obviously the horses look closer there. That must be sort of close to the end of where they stop or right around him. But I actually think they stopped because you can see a couple of people standing down the right-hand side. So yeah, the camera's is far away from Kit, and Kit's far away from the horses.
Wow. That's crazy because, like, looking at this photo, the army doesn't look that big from this angle, but on screen it looks so massive. It's cool how they're all just bunched in there.
Our frame just goes from the left horse to the right horse.
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah. So you fill up the entire screen and nothing more. Yeah.
Screen.
I wouldn't even, looking at this, I wouldn't even think, I think you said before it was like 60, 70 people. I wouldn't even think that looking at this. That's incredible. Wow. That's shot in the RE too. Wow, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's so cool.
Yeah, thank you so much. That looks fantastic, Fabian. That looks awesome. We're going to sort of start wrapping up here. So we've got two more sort of quick fire questions for you. So
I've got 10 minutes or so.
Yeah. So after Zack Snyder's Justice League in March, you're working on Monster Butler, starring the great Malcolm McDowell. From what I can gather from your resume, from your IMDb. But what's next for you after that? Like, can we expect to see you back on TV? Perhaps even the Game of Thrones prequel?
Monster Butler, unfortunately, hasn't happened yet. I'm still hoping for that to happen because it's a great script and Malcolm is great. We've been talking about it for a long, long time now, about doing that film. So I hope that's going to happen at some point. Yeah, I've just been doing commercials, and obviously with COVID, it's been pretty difficult. And also, I chose not to travel away too much. Julius actually was doing another movie, which he wanted me to come and do, which I would have loved to have done with him. But because of the newborn baby, and I just didn't want to be away too much. And so we'll see what happens. I've been working on my website. I've been working on my show reel.
Yeah.
How old's your newborn?
Huh?
How old's your newborn?
She's 20 months now.
Wow.
So she was newborn, obviously, a couple of years ago when Julius was asking me. And then COVID came, and so it's like, well, what do you do?
Oh, COVID. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you both at the same time got a lot done in lockdown and not much done at all, right? I mean, did you watch a lot of movies in lockdown? Did you do an Edgar Wright and go through a list like the Martin Scorsese list?
I started off watching some movies, but then we had a lovely summer here, so we just spent all the time gardening. We've got a lot of animals here, and so we just spent a lot of time in our garden doing vegetables and growing vegetables and all sorts. And so yeah, I mean, we were very lucky. I have to say, we had a really good time, so very fortunate, I guess. But yeah, I'm very looking forward to getting back into something. And I hadn't done a new show reel for, my agent has been telling me to make a new show reel for 8 years now.
Oh my gosh.
And every year.
Wait, are you saying Battle of the Bastards is not in your show reel currently? Is that what you're saying to me?
It is now, but it wasn't.
Wow. That's awesome.
I mean, can you even imagine that?
My last show reel was 2013. I was 2012 and 13. And so they were saying, you got to do the show reel. And I always said, yeah, it's all right, I'll do it. And then I never did. And then so I got Final Cut Pro and I started cutting it. And I'm a very bad editor, so it's taken me a long time. But I'm getting there.
Wow. Well, honestly, I'm just surprised to hear that someone of your, with amazing credits even needs a show reel. That's even that just blows my mind. Look, we're almost out of time, but we've got a.
I've got one.
We're actually.
I've got a fun one. I've got one that we
Okay.
used to ask our guests all the time, but for some reason we just never got around to for the last few ones. But us being a podcast called Midnight Double Feature, we used to ask our guests all the time, if you had a Sunday afternoon that you just had free, what 2 movies would you pick out and watch back to back? Just without, there's no other strings attached. Just, you're sitting down and you're just watching 2 movies. What do you pull out?
Okay, well, I could give you the potential answer now, and I would have to say something like, "Oh, I probably watch I don't even know."
Well, you have our email address, so please feel free to update us.
I'll give you an honest answer, and if it was a Sunday afternoon, it'll probably be something like Die Hard 1 and Die Hard 2.
Oh, yes! Fantastic.
Indiana Jones, I don't know, something like that.
That's awesome. That's a good pick, man. I like that. Matt, do you have anything else before we close out here?
You know what? While we've got you, can I ask you a question I've always wondered about working with some of these bigger cameras in Hollywood? I don't know if this is an interesting question or not, but I've always been curious. So at the end of the credits of a lot of these big films, you'll often see the logo of shot on Ari, shot on I know Red's been popping up a bit lately. Is that usually because a brand deal between the production and producers and the company, or is that more like an endorsement with the DOP or something like that? How does that normally work to your knowledge?
I have no idea, but that has nothing to do with the DP. I think it's just, it's like in the good old days when they were showing, when short in Technicolor came up at the end.
Yeah.
So it's just, that must be an endorsement of but there must be something with production and stuff.
Wow, I'm surprised it doesn't affect you too much. That's interesting.
It's a good question. I've got no idea.
Well, thanks for your honesty.
If I have the answer, let me know.
Yeah, okay, we'll do.
We'll shoot you an email. We'll hunt down the studio execs and see what happens.
100%.
Fabian, thank you so much for joining us for this. This was absolutely amazing. This has been such an amazing opportunity for us. And you have an open invite to come back on the show anytime and just talk about movies, talk about any of your projects, just anything in general. If you want to talk about the weather, that's fine. It's completely cool.
So again, that was fun. I really enjoyed that, guys. Thank you for having me. And I thought that was really, I do these a lot, as you probably know, but that was really interesting questions. And I enjoyed that. It was very good.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are Looney Tunes back in action. We're back. And that was such a great interview. I had so much fun with that. Thank you so much for joining us. That was awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed that too. But that's it for now. That's the end for this episode. See you later.
Yep.
Goodbye.
We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
No. We've got a huge... This is a jam-packed episode.
Because there's not an hour left on their fucking thing, on their little phone thing.
I'm looking at this. This might be more than an hour. This is a insane... The amount of trailers we got. Let me just go pull up what we got here. Mortal Kombat is a kind of a big one. Army of the Dead, big one. Luca is going to be.
Let's get into it. Let's just go right into
Remorse, a whole bunch, and then later on, guys, we'll talk about One Division. But let's kick off with what I think is probably the big get. One of the big ones is Mortal Kombat. Now, I've been very vocal on the podcast about my excitement for this. I have some very strong opinions and very, but what I'm more curious about is Zoheb. How familiar are you with the video games? Because I know you're definitely not as much of a nerd about this shit as I am.
So yeah, I think that statement is correct. And when you say that I have, look, I'm just going to go straight into it. I have zero experience with Mortal Kombat. I've never played a Mortal Kombat game. I don't know any of the characters outside of Scorpion and Sub-Zero because they're just kind of like, quote, iconic, unquote. But outside of those two, I don't know anyone else.
Did you see the movies from the 90s?
No, I never saw the movies from the 90s. I haven't, I just have never played any of the games. I have some kind of I like fighters, the fighting games, like the genre. Like I like the fighting games. But I've never played those ones. I was a big, Street Fighter fan growing up, or a Tekken fan growing up. I can name you Street Fighter Street Fighter characters and Tekken characters, but I can't name you outside of Sub-Zero and Scorpion any other character from Mortal Kombat. And like my question is, in this trailer, where the fuck is Chun-Li? Like, goddamn.
That was the most insane post I've ever seen. There are people on two sides of this. Some claim it's a satire article, but most say it is someone trying to be an activist about something they clearly don't know about. What do you think that lands on?
I think it's someone being a fucking moron, to be honest.
Oh, it's the dumbest thing ever. The fact that they're like, well, Sonya's in it, but why not Chun-Li? It's like, come on, man. Do a simple Google search. It could take you 2 seconds. Did you know Chun-Li is from Street Fighter? Did you know that?
Me? Yeah, 100%. I mean, come on, dude. Like, she was like a childhood crush growing up. Come on. Like,
she has to be, man. She's often known as the first woman of video games. So,
there you go.
Yeah.
But look, getting into this trailer, I guess I'll just go into it. This trailer did the one thing that a trailer should do for an adaptation, and that is make someone who had no knowledge of the source material or no interest in the source material excited for the movie. I am hyped for this movie after that trailer. That was a fucking outstanding trailer, dude. That was awesome. It was like, because it introduces you to the whole, the concept, right? Like the competition that Mortal Kombat is. It introduces you to the level of violence, the level of cheese, right? So you kind of like already establish some kind of tone and what you're going to get in this movie. Just this like high level, kind of like over the top action, fighting, blood and gore. Like we're not out here to win Oscars kind of like situation, right? So, and then you have actors like Hiroyuki Sanada, who is I don't know who he's playing, but like he kind of like has like a moment in the trailer where it looks like he's in a forest and he's like throwing around this kind of like blade knife thing and he goes through someone's head. Who's he playing?
That's Scorpion before he's Scorpion.
Oh, right, okay. Cool,
so
cool.
He's fighting Sub-Zero's clan, the Lin Kuei, they're called.
Right, okay. Yeah, cool. My penis just went up into itself, but no, I'm kidding. But yeah, like I think this is a fantastic trailer. It's a fantastic introduction to this whole world that I have no idea about. But yeah, I'm totally intrigued. Yeah, what are your thoughts, dude? As a fan, I'm hoping that this lived up to your expectations.
Oh boy, where do I start? Okay, overall thoughts. This is for the most part extremely faithful to the source material. It is surprisingly faithful. Like they've done it with what feels like it's very authentic. The cast and the director seems to like really know their shit about it. And like there seems to be a general love for the franchise. So which is like rewarding to see because not all video game movies get that treatment, oh god. There is a brand new character, this character of Cole. He's not from the video games. He's meant to be there as like a character to introduce us and do it all that. And I'm going to be honest, like I heard this through a leak a long, long time ago. I was very worried. I was very skeptical about that. And I can't speak for the film because I haven't seen it. But the impression I got from the trailer is that he's just there to get things started. Like the trailer did a really good job of showing us that, look, all your favorite characters are here. Some of them we haven't seen in a movie before, and they really hammered home like their talking points. It's got gore for the first time. We're seeing live action gore in a Mortal Kombat film. We've got nearly all the fan favorite characters. I think there's one really big one missing. But besides that, it looks pretty faithful. Like I've got a few little nitpicks from a fan perspective, but they're very minor. Overall, I'm really satisfied from a fan perspective. Yeah, man. This looks good.
Nice, dude. I'm glad to hear. Like like we talk about this all the time. I don't particularly think that being faithful to source material is like like the best particular thing about a project, but like it's a good sign. Like, like it's a good kind of like a jumping off point, like that they are kind of like following some kind of like structure or like some kind of like similarity to what they're going off. But like me, right? Like I mean, like we talk about this all the time with like superhero and comic book movies. I don't love like the whole kind of like fan movement of like it has to be the same. Like it has to be 100% accurate. It has to be 100% faithful. Blah blah blah. But if you've got the aesthetic of it and the general kind of like faith of what you're trying to what you're trying to adapt, right? Then I think you've got a solid project on your hands potentially.
Yeah, like, look, the biggest changes I see here is, like I said, Cole is not from the video games. And there's a few shots of a character called Melina. She's the one with, like, kind of like the fucked up face. They've changed her nationality, which implies that they've changed her entire backstory because she's meant to be the daughter of Shao Kahn, who's basically the Thanos of Mortal Kombat, and the sister of Katana, who is always pretty much depicted as Japanese. And here she seems to be like African American. So I feel like she's going to be like one of those cannon fodder characters, which is okay because it's Mortal Kombat. You have to expect some characters to die. It is a bit disappointing though, because she is a bit of a fan favorite if that's the case. But like they've done so much other things right here that I'm okay with that. Like I don't mind them making some minor changes. Like one complaint I saw online, which I think was unwarranted, is people like, well, Jax didn't have his arms destroyed by Sub-Zero. In the video game, Ermac does it. Like, yeah, but in the animated movie, Goro does it. In another project, it happened by someone else. Like, shit like that, it's actually better if you change it because it gives you a surprise. It gives you something new. So, yeah, I'm okay with most of the changes. Honestly, my biggest complaint is I feel like I can't believe I'm saying this. As a fan, I'm excited to see it. But as someone who's going to see the movie, I worried that I've seen too much. Because you have things like Goro, who's like the guy with the forearms. You only see him in one shot. But like, we didn't know that he was in the movie. Like, you could have saved that for a surprise. Or if you pause at the right moments, you can see some more fatalities. You can see some deaths. And I worry, it's like, have they given away too much? I don't know. I hope they haven't. But overall, I'm really happy. I think the casting is pretty good. I'll admit, I'm unfamiliar with most of these actors. But from what I can see on Twitter, they all seem really passionate. They all look like the characters.
I need to pause you, dude. You need to watch a movie called The Last Samurai. That's got that guy that I was talking about, Hiroyuki Sanada, who's playing Scorpion.
Is that the Tom Cruise one?
Yeah, the Tom Cruise one. Really, really awesome, dude.
I think I saw it when I was little, but I don't remember it at all.
Well, that guy's also in The Wolverine. Like he's really awesome in The Wolverine.
Right. I don't remember him, but what I can say is I do have seen people lose their shit over casting him in particular. So like I'm hyped. Also, the guy who plays Sub-Zero, isn't he from The Raid? I believe. I'm not sure.
Joe Taslim?
I
don't think so. Oh, yeah, he is from The Raid. Yeah, and Fast and Furious 6.
Obviously, The Raid is a fucking amazing movie, so I'm hyped from that. The other one that stood out to me was Jax is played by, I forget his name, but he plays Jimmy Olsen in Supergirl. And when I first heard that casting, like in that show, like he's a scrawny little dude, and I was like, they're going to fuck it up. There's no way he's going to pull it off. I saw him in this trailer and I'm like, let's go. I believe him as Jax now. Like when I heard that, like I heard he was cast as him like almost a year ago. And I was like, no way, it won't work. And the second I saw him in here, I'm like, I take it back. He looks great. If I had to be nitpicky, the guy who plays Raiden looks a bit young, but again, what's really good about this film is the authenticity it feels. Like they're predominantly like all the characters that should be Asian are Asian. It feels very authentic. It doesn't feel like they haven't like whitewashed it and stuff. Like immediately like the 90s movies kind of did that. And it really adds to like it feels real. And the best thing about Mortal Kombat, in my opinion, especially with the most recent games, is the different worlds and lands. Like Mortal Kombat 11 story mode, it's very Game of Thronesy because there are different like kingdoms and realms and different like races and nationalities who represent each other, and they try and get into some politics, but as much as you can in a fighting game. It's not exactly Game of Thrones quality, but they go for it. And that's what I've always been excited. Like honestly, with Mortal Kombat, I like the lore better than I like the games because the characters are so interesting. And like 2 years ago, what's his name? Joe, Conjuring guy. What's his name?
Who?
The guy does The Conjuring. He's Aussie. Did Saw. Joe.
Oh, what? James Wan?
James Wan. That's it.
The fuck?
Because yeah,
I was like, who?
He's producing this. He was the first. He was the one who fought for this to get an R rating. He went hard, and he first pitched it as an R-rated Avengers. And the second I heard that, I'm like, that is exactly what this movie needs to be, and that's what looks like we're getting. So I am very, very excited. Yeah, I'm also, I don't know who this girl is, but the girl who plays Sonya, she looks exactly like Sonya, like the way I would imagine that Sonya would look and act. Like she looks perfect for that role. Yeah, like as a fan, I'm very happy. I do have one major concern though. Here it is. So the co-creator, the main guy behind Mortal Kombat is a guy called Ed Boon. I guess you could say he's like the Stan Lee of this game. He is definitely one of the most famous Western video game developers of all time. He's got a huge reputation. He's really big on Twitter. He loves trolling the fans. He has not made a single tweet about this film. He's even retweeted the Justice League trailer. He has not retweeted or anything about this movie. The only comment I can find from him is from a year ago saying he's seen it, and that's all he could say. I have a feeling he's unhappy with the movie. That doesn't mean it's going to be bad. Just maybe he wasn't consulted and he's salty about it. I don't know.
Well, that's not concerning at all. I mean, like very famously, the guy who wrote Watchmen, Alan Moore, hates the Watchmen film and the TV
really?
show.
I didn't know that.
Very, very famously, like outright hates it.
I guess
Stephen King, dude. Stephen King, yeah, with The Shining, very vocally does not like Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
Yes, I guess that is all right. It would be a shame because the only thing is, like, in every medium, he does the voice for Scorpion's Get Over Here. Even in the movies, in the video games, he doesn't voice Scorpion, but he does that line. Hearing someone else say it feels a little funny, but that's such a minor thing. It's like 2 seconds of the film. I can get over that. I would have loved to see a cameo for him though, but he loves the 90s films.
If fans are going to get fucking all up in arms about that, they do not deserve this movie. I'm just going to straight up say that because, like, dude, well,
it's
there's
like,
just no way.
The thing is like he is in the blood of it. Like it's just a little sad to see him. You know, maybe they're hiding something. Like there's been like speculation for ages that Mortal Kombat 11 would get a skin pack based on these characters because they recently, Mortal Kombat 11 got a skin pack of the 90s actors. The 90s actors, a bunch of them reprised their roles and got lookalike skins in the game, which is awesome. So everyone said, oh, the movie must get that too. But to hear that, like, it seems, or to see that, like, he's actively avoiding talking about it, it makes me wonder, but he might just be a sore loser, you know? It could be a million other reasons. I don't think it's enough to cast any doubts, but yeah, that's a little bummer thing. But man, I just got to say, how happy I am because I've been looking forward to this movie since I first heard wind about it, which I think was 2018. I've been looking forward to this film, and to see that at the very least, it looks like the costumes are faithful and the lore is good, and there's gore and all that, and it looks like there's a lot of fight scenes here. I'm pretty happy with it. So I can't wait to see more. I just hope they don't take it too seriously, which I don't think they are. But yeah, as long as they don't take it too seriously, this will be a good time.
Nice.
Yeah. Shall we move on?
Yeah, let's move on.
I honestly could talk 3 hours about this trailer alone, but that would involve me getting really deep into the lore.
I just sent you a message on Zoom. I'm just like, Matt, try and fucking rap it, dude. Like, I'm just like, no, that's all right. No, I'm enjoying the conversation. Absolutely. It's just like, I need to slap on my fucking producer helmet for a sec and just feel like, because I 100%, no, because I felt the same way about Dune, right? I mean, like when the Dune trailer came out, I 100% felt the same way, and I wanted to talk about it, till the cows come home. But like, we got so much more. We've got so much more.
That's cool. Let's move on to here's a cute little one. Disney and Pixar's Luca. I believe it's the same team specifically behind Coco. I think it's the same director. Could be wrong. But I do get slight Coco vibes from it. What do you think of this film? This trailer. Teaser trailer, I should say.
I'm going to be straight up honest. I didn't get a chance to see this trailer. I'm being a terrible co-host, and I do apologize.
Okay. Well, I should unmute while I give my thoughts. How about that?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So this is awesome. It's cool to see a Pixar film set in Italy. I knew that's the only thing I knew going into it. I did not know it would tie into this mermaid type mythology or sea monsters or whatever it is. I don't know if it's a reference to something cultural or not. But it looks cool. It's like a cool way of like trying to hide yourself from, all that. The big thing that takes me by surprise is the art direction. I don't think I've seen a Pixar film go. This must seem weird, but this level of cartoony with the character designs, like with something like Coco, it still feels a bit more realistic than this does. Like this feels, I don't know, it reminds me of like Peanuts or I don't know, maybe even Popeye. I don't know why I get that vibe, I just do. But like I still love it. And if anything, it probably gives them more opportunity to go more animated with the animation. But yeah, I love the water effects as well. I don't know much about this film, but I can really tell it's going to be a good one because Pixar always is. And it's great to see like a WOG movie, a movie with WOGs, Do
you want to explain for our American audience what WOGs are?
How do I say it? In Australia, WOG is a word for European ethnic cultures. Like it's generally it's Italians, Maltese, Croatians, a lot of that area. It originally started as a word that was to put them down, a bit racist, but then like we sort of took it as our own, kind of like the N-word, but way less offensive. Like if a white person says WOG, WOGs don't get offended because, we the way we got here was very different. We were immigrated with by giving tax releases and stuff. It was something that I think happened for a while. It was seen negatively, but now it's kind of like
what? I didn't even know that.
Oh,
Is that real?
It was like a term that was used. It was created out of racist intentions. But I think through
I knew that. I didn't know about the tax.
Oh, yeah. The reason there are so many WOGs, especially in like Western Sydney, is when Australia was in the early days and they were trying to build the country more. The way they got more people to come in to work was they provide a bunch of like tax incentives for people to move here. That's why my family got here.
I did hear about this.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my
is
dad
history coming back. Yeah.
So yeah, the reason my dad immigrated here, he went on a boat. He was on a boat for 3 weeks to get here when he was like 18, and it's all because like they were like, I think they were like they paid for the boat trip over or something, and they gave him some financial incentives. But the catch was you've got to do certain jobs. They're usually like hard labor and stuff. And that's why you get areas like Bankstown, because originally they'd all stick together in certain towns. And that's kind of how a lot of, particularly Western Sydney, built the way it is.
Okay.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, so for what, if I even hear me say the word WOG Americans, that's what I mean. I mean like Europeans. Yeah, there's a little history lesson there for you.
Going back to Luca. I'm just going to, because I haven't seen the trailer, but Just having a look at it, the director, it's the first time director, and they do this a lot actually. So Josh Cooley was the director of Toy Story 4. That was his first movie. But like they kind of like draw their directors from the art department or who like of the movies that they worked previously. So he was the story artist, this director. His name is Enrico Casarosa. He was the story artist in the art department on Coco. And he is of Italian heritage. So there you go. I guess it's close to him. So
I know Pixar have a policy which is kind of unique where I don't know if it's still in place, but I know it was a big thing for a while where they had a policy where anyone in the company, no matter what your position, you were allowed to pitch a script or pitch a concept. So even if you were like the janitor, you were allowed to have a meeting and say, I have this idea. Like they were very like big on that. Obviously that doesn't mean you're going to direct the film. It might just mean you plant a seed in someone's mind. But I noticed in recent years, Pixar, they really love the idea of diving into like cultures and stuff. Like obviously Coco went into like a lot of like Mexican culture. This, I think Ray and the Last Dragon, I haven't seen it yet, but I think it's
that's not Pixar.
It's just Disney?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, fair enough. But I guess, Pixar, they
Soul
love,
did.
Yeah, they
Soul,
love
Soul went in African American heritage.
Yeah, Soul, another one there. And which is kind of interesting because it's kind of like a similar approach to what Disney took in their early days, where they would take folklore from different countries. Like I know Sweden, I think it was Sweden and Norway was a big one. They took a couple from and stuff like like the Brothers Grimm stuff as well. And that's why you get stuff like even like Brave now, which is I think based on some sort of Irish folklore or something. I'm
Scottish, sorry.
So don't quote me on that though. I could be wrong, but I know they drew inspiration from something specific. But yeah, look, I love it. I get a little chuckle over how big they did the noses here. They really did that with the. They really drew some inspiration from Italians there. It's a beautiful teaser. I can't wait to see more. You should watch it when you get the chance.
Yeah, I'll definitely give it a go. I just ran out of time, unfortunately. But I mean, look, I'm not. Pixar to me is not the bulletproof studio that it once was. I obviously have a lot of faith in them. And Soul was outstanding, right? I mean, like we talked about in that top 5 episode for sure. But like for every Soul, you get an Onward, or for every Inside Out, you get The Good Dinosaur. Or for every kind of like, like these outstanding movies like Coco, you get a Monsters University. So like, and that's not to say that those 3 movies that I mentioned are not good. They're just not up to that Pixar level standard, like, that like people expected.
It's funny. I would say those movies still shit on 99% of most other animated films, but just when you compare them to some of the masterpieces from Pixar, they don't hold up as well. And I guess it's the curse of being so good, right? Hell, even Marvel have that problem. You get something like Captain Marvel coming out, which is okay, but then you put that up against, I don't know, it came out right after Infinity War, and it just makes it look really shit. And really, it's a fine superhero film. It's fine. It just looks crap compared to some of their other stuff they did because they have such a high reputation. And that's the curse of being amazing, I guess. Let's keep the ball rolling with Disney, though. We got a trailer for Cruella. Now, before we get into this, I want to say something. So, with our interview with Raja Gosnell, I said that my girlfriend, Kate, her favorite movie of all time is Home Alone 3. I slightly lied. It's actually tied with Disney's 101 Dalmatians. The live action one.
You've heard it here first, guys. This is Matt lying on interviews just to appease directors.
No. Yeah, it's a tie between those 2 films. Both involve very Home Alone antics. Like 101 Dalmatians, the live action first one, which I hadn't seen since I was a little kid until we started dating. Now I've seen it a million times. It is very Home Alone. In fact, it even has one of the Wet Bandits, not Joe Pesci, the other guy. I forget his name. He's in that. What's his name?
I'm forgetting, but Glenn, dude, who gives a shit? Fucking Glenn Close is in it.
Yeah, it's a solid flick. Obviously, this take is very different. They are going down the, I guess, Maleficent past, or as a lot of people like to say, it's possibly very Harley Quinn inspired. But what's your take of this Cruella trailer, man?
I'm actually really on board. I wasn't on board with this initially. Like I'm not precious about these kinds of things, right? I mean, like we talk about this all the time. People get really up in arms about like, does this need to be done? Does that really need to be fleshed out? If they're doing it, they're doing it. Like there's no sense fucking complaining about it. We're gonna get it, right? And if you have the passion to complain about it, you're at some point going to watch it eventually. Like your curiosity will eventually get the better of you. So I'm just gonna be like, look, fuck it. I love Emma Stone. I was literally just like a couple hours ago while I was working listening to the La La Land soundtrack. And I love Emma Stone. I think Emma Stone is just an amazing young actress, and she's got multiple Oscars under her belt, right? I mean, like that fucking helps. I think she's just I think she can absolutely like knock it out of the park. It's going to be tough living up to that Glenn Close kind of performance, because Glenn Close like was scary and funny and delightful, all kind of like rolled into one. I think that Emma's got the chops to bring all of that home, but I'm curious to see what they do with it. I'm actually really interested, just from a directing standpoint, because it's directed by a guy named Craig Gillespie, and his last movie was I, Tonya, which was a fucking knockout of a movie.
Oh.
Like that movie is out fucking standing. And this is a guy who is from Sydney. He's from Sydney, New South Wales. Like he's, homeborn, homebred. And it's always awesome to see, like Australian directors getting a crack at a big project like this. So yeah, man, I'm 100% I'm on board with this movie. It probably won't be a day one for me. Probably give it a couple days, something like that. It'll probably likely be my girlfriend wanting to go see it, and I'll just be like, you know what? Yeah, fuck it. Yeah, let's go. I'm excited. So yeah, I'll be on board with this.
Yeah. Here's a question for you: Is Margot Robbie an Emma Stone type? Like, if you're casting for an Emma Stone type, do you call Margot Robbie? Is she like the first choice?
Not really. I think they're pretty unique. It depends what the role is, right? I mean, because like you don't have. Because if I imagine Margot Robbie's Wolf of Wall Street character versus Emma Stone's La La Land character, those two characters are worlds apart. So it depends what role they're playing. Like, and Emma, like physically, they don't even look that similar, other than the fact that they're white.
I feel like they got a similar range. I'm thinking that. But anyways, that's not the point. That's not my point. My thoughts on this trailer. I've actually been reflecting a lot lately, and I think Cruella de Vil as a character may be one of the best, if not the best, female villain of all time. Like, when you think about it, there's not a lot of competition, and I can honestly see why you draw from Harley Quinn, because she's blowing up right now, and there is some sort of like some basis for it. As a former, what am I saying? Former, I'm wearing an Amity Affliction t-shirt. As a current emo kid, I'm all for the punk rock emo influence here. It is not what the fuck I would have expected, but I'm all for it, baby. I'm all for it. I love Emma Stone. I've never seen her do a bad performance. Even when she's in a bad movie, she's the best part of that movie. Like,
right, like Gangster Squad or something, right? I mean, like she still nails it out of the park.
Bro, her performance in, was it movie 43? Like, she cried. I think she cried on cue, or she came close to it at least. Like, she gave an amazing dramatic performance in the dumbest fucking scene. I know there's a lot of dumb scenes in that movie, but she goes all out. She is so good. And when I first heard of this casting, I was like, fuck yeah. I don't know how they're going to pull it off, but I love the idea. Go for it. So what I'm noticing about Disney is Disney love a lot lately to make movies about villains. It seems to be a new thing they like doing. Maybe this is inspired by like Maleficent. That's the that's the bad
Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah, I think there was another one. I can't think off the top of my head. I wouldn't be surprised if they did like a fucking Scar movie or some shit. But look, the other thing I really like about this film, this trailer, is dude, the use of color, the fact like a lot of these scenes involve a lot of blacks and whites, clearly alluding to the Dalmatians and stuff. But like something that just gets to me from this trailer is just how much of a character she's beyond Dalmatians, you know? Like I feel like this character could have her own franchise. It just, when I see it here in action, it just makes sense. It's like, oh, why didn't I think of this before? This is great. A young Cruella being a badass, doing badass things. You could cut Dalmatians out of this movie and it would still probably be cool. The only thing I've got to say really is like, here's the thing. I don't understand what the fuck's it about.
I love how you're like, the only thing I got to say for it really, and like this is after you've been speaking already. This is after you've been speaking for like 5 minutes long.
Okay, maybe negative, but yeah. Like I still don't know what the fuck this movie's about. Like I know it's about Cruella, but like what's the plot? What's the motivation? I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Like the fact that I'm hyped of it without knowing what the story engine is.
Wait.
That
You didn't see her kill 3 businessmen on a train and then dance in a bathroom and then become Cruella de Vil? Like, are you sure?
Sorry, I forgot they copy and pasted the script from Joker, didn't they? Look, I don't understand what it's about, but I'm okay with it because the trailer's that fucking good. Emma just looks fucking amazing. Shout outs to the costume and makeup department. Like they are crushed. This I think could be an Oscar contender for best costuming already. And just the design, it's very Tim Burton-y as well, which is what I love. And like classic Tim Burton. Which by the way, for those who haven't heard, apparently he's doing a Wednesday Addams show for Netflix. So I'm very keen for that too. Do you have any other thoughts before we move on?
No, let's move on, dude.
All right.
2 grown men who've been talking about Cruella for a very long time now.
It's Emma Stone. I could do it for a while.
Yeah, that's true.
I could talk about Emma Stone for a while.
You want to see my Spotify history? I went through the entire fucking official soundtrack of La La Land, so I can't talk.
That's I forgive. No, that's totally fine. That's a great movie. That's a great soundtrack. Let's get some bit more manly, huh? We're manly men. Let's get to a manly movie.
I think I know what's coming. Army
of the Dead. No, Thunder Force. That's the manliest film. I'm kidding. That's about Army of the Dead, dude. Zack Snyder's next film. You know what? It's like watching the trailers like, oh yeah, that's what Zach's like. Like that. It's like, what's Zach been up to lately? You know, it's seeing this trailer. It's like a reminder of this is who he is. You know, in a way, I get the impression of. What do you think of this trailer, man?
Yeah, I was actually surprised that it was only a minute long. Right? I mean, like I was like, oh, that's a bit of a bummer considering he'd been like kind of like hyping it up. But it looks great though. It like honestly, like Netflix looks like they spent a pretty penny on this movie because it looks gorgeous. Like I think it's got splashes of humor, it's got splashes of action. Reminds me quite a bit of Zach's Dawn of the Dead, which is in its own right really freaking good. Like you're following up a George Romero kind of like classic film, right? So like remaking a George Romero, Dawn of the Dead or whatever of the Dead is no small feat, and remaking it well as he did with Dawn of the Dead back in the day was just, chef's kiss. I love that movie. But Army of the Dead, it's looks a bit more action oriented than Dawn of the Dead does. I think obviously there's going to be some splashes of horror and stuff in there. I think, Dave Bautista can do no wrong. I think he's really great. I'm really, really keen for this and I want to see more. I'm really bummed that it was only a minute long, and I'm genuinely happy for Zack Snyder. Like, I mean, we're going to, I guarantee you we're probably going to be talking about Zack Snyder a bit more over the coming weeks, considering, the closer we get to Zack Snyder's Justice League. But, I'm genuinely happy that he's kind of like gaining a bit more and more traction. Like even just today, dude, like he's going to receive an honor from the Hollywood Critics Association. Like, just that alone, like he's getting an award for it. And it's just like, man, like good on you, dude.
He deserves so much recognition based on 300 alone. 300 was a cultural phenomenon. that movie is, I haven't seen it in a while. I don't know if it holds up, but that movie was like a game changer for a bit.
Can tell you what, Watchmen. Like you gotta watch Watchmen again, man. Like they just added the 3-hour ultimate cut to binge. The streaming service here.
Yeah.
And I really want to watch that.
Fuck. Speaking of streaming services, we might talk about something else a little later. But let's get into Army of the Dead. For me, I loved Dawn of the Dead. His Dawn of the Dead. I think it still might be one of my favorite movies of his for a while. However, I haven't seen it in like 10 years. I used to watch it on repeat so much as a kid. I don't remember it very much now, though. So I don't remember how good it is. I just remember the visual style is very different from his other movies. I think Watchmen 300 really helped develop his vibe for aesthetics. I remember Dawn of the Dead didn't really have that. This does. I'm really interested in seeing a Zack Snyder film that's not based on like a comic or a superhero or something. I feel like DC actually creatively kind of held him back a little bit because I think he painted himself into a corner where weirdly, while he was given free reins and lots of freedom, it kind of weirdly restricted him at the same time. So I'm really excited to see him do something more original. Because I do think he is fantastic, and I think Justice League weirdly has given him so much free publicity lately. It's probably made him a real name for studios to grab hold of, regardless of quality. Look, I just hope this is not one of his big films with gigantic philosophical debates and stuff. I just give me zombies getting shot in the head with nice slow motion shit, and he'll have sold me. It'll be good. I love the fact that Batista's in it. I don't know why I love that. I just feel like he'd be good in a Zack Snyder film. I have one minor criticism. This seems to be my formula now. I praise it for 10 minutes straight, and I come out with one weird nitpick. And here's my weird nitpick. I don't like I don't like the titles. This Suicide Squad vibes of the titles feel like they don't suit the footage we're seeing, which is the same complaint we had about Boss Level's trailer. I might be wrong when I see it, but like I don't see neon lights in this footage. I just really see it in the titles, and I don't know. I think Suicide Squad really popularized
That's a fair criticism. I mean, I think they're kind of going for, because it's set in Vegas, right? And Vegas is all basically neon. So I think that's kind of like what they're going for.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Either way, that probably won't affect the movie. So yeah. Keen to see what comes from Zach. Zach he's not like a perfect director, but he's a very interesting director. And I really do like especially his older films a lot. I've got a mate who actually wants to do a watch party for this. I may go to that because it'd be nice to socialize with friends again. Let's move on though.
For Zack Snyder's Justice League?
Oh, no. For Army of the Dead.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say, you're going to be in a room for 4 hours and 1 minute.
Oh,
that's the running time.
I think I'm going to need a multiple pee breaks for Justice League. Look, I do want to quickly get into Thunder Force real quick. I just want to say, I think...
That's good, because Thunder Force wants to get in you.
Oh. That feels like a threat. Yeah. Look, first of all, let's get the obvious out of the way. It looks horrible. Melissa McCarthy and Octavia Spencer are both better than this, especially Octavia Spencer. Like, I know that she's been trying to branch out into other genres and stuff lately, but this is not the way to do it. Sorry. And Melissa McCarthy, yeah, she's done some stinkers, but I feel like she was on an uptick recently. And then this comes out. And I want to say why I really dislike this movie. It's not because it stars two 40-year-old women being superheroes. Hell, I think that has a lot of potential to be a really interesting concept that you could explore. But I feel like none of that's going to be explored in this piece of shit movie because the script feels like, from what we can see in this trailer, it feels like it would have felt outdated in 2003. It is doing no attempt at being unique or original or innovating on the genre. It feels like they're just retreading the usual. It's like they took any random superhero script from 2004 and just replaced a few words. The end. Like, the jokes are also incredibly lazy and boring. Like, it feels it reminds me a little bit of the Happy Time Murders, where, yeah, that was a cool concept, but the jokes were 90% of the jokes were so unbelievably lazy and unfunny. It's like they did one draft and said, that's good. Like, they had placeholders, like, we'll come up with a joke for here later, and then just didn't come up with one. Like, saying, like, I got hit in the nuts or just some random dramatic, that's not good enough. And it makes me annoyed that movies like this are given millions and millions of dollars, but they have such lazy attempts at making a film. Like, it just feels... I'm going to get mad if I keep going on this, but Melissa, Octavia, you both can do better than this, especially Octavia
Doubt you're
Spencer.
listening to this, but okay.
If they do, I hope right now Octavia Spencer's like, hang on, you're right. I've been at the Oscars so many. I'm too good for this shit. Hell, I did Doolittle too. Oh my god,
Doolittle?
I did Doolittle. Not the second one, the remake. Yeah. I didn't. Oh my god. Yeah. Please come on. And Melissa McCarthy, she's had a bit of a fall from grace, right? Remember when she was like so hyped up? Like she had her first few. She had a few films that for a while were huge. I didn't fucking love them, but like she had so much hype around her for a good solid year or two after Bridesmaids, and what was that movie where she played like an identity thief or something?
That's literally the title of that movie.
Oh, Identity Thief. There we go. I don't know if that was any good, but I remember it had some hype around it. It just, okay, I'm done. Are you good? Do you have anything to say?
I have nothing to say about this.
Thank you for indulging me. I had to get that off my chest. Look, we got one more trailer left, and then we're going to talk One Division. We got a review, and I want to bring out something else as well. But let's talk about Without Remorse, starring Michael B. Jordan from Tom Clancy. Is this based on a book of his, or is this like a script he wrote? Do you know?
Yeah, so it's based on a book by Tom Clancy, the famous author. Yeah, I am hyped for this movie. Like, obviously I'm a big, Michael B. Jordan fan, but not only that, I'm a big kind of like military kind of like thriller fan. Or like a military kind of like political thriller fan. And, that is Tom Clancy's kind of like wheelhouse, right? I mean, like growing up, I always played Tom Clancy shooters like Rainbow Six, were my favorite games growing up, especially Vegas. Oh, man, Rainbow Six Vegas was incredible, and its sequel. So, yeah, I'm totally on board with this. This is also written by Taylor Sheridan, one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. He wrote Sicario. This looks awesome, dude. The only kind of like hesitancy that I have is that it's directed by Stefano Sollima. And Stefano Sollima, he did a good job with the Sicario sequel. It just wasn't, Villeneuve level. Nothing is. But I think he did a good job with it. It still kind of like smacks of, like even the trailer for this kind of like smacks of a little lacking in kind of like creativity or inventiveness. Outside of that kind of like last scene where he dumps the fucking petroleum on the thing on the car. Yeah, that was awesome. I love that, and I wonder if that's in the book. But I am on board with this movie for sure.
Look, Tom Clancy, I don't hate him, but he's never really tickled my fancy, for the exception of I really like the Splinter Cell games. I thought they were really cool. Like they were also like, they started a phenomenon of stealth video games, But I don't know, for me, something's just never clicked with me with a lot of his stuff. But I am a big Michael B. Jordan fan, and this trailer, I hesitated to even watch it, but I knew it was going to be a big deal, so I should talk about it. So I watched it, and at first I was kind of a bit reluctant for the first few seconds, but eventually it started winning me over. And I think it's because I think they found the right balance and tone of popcorny blockbuster with sort of serious political thriller, military shit. I feel like they've got a good balance and they've got a charismatic lead. It's enough to win me over. And I think what really got me hooked is that scene you mentioned, that dumping the fire on the car. Probably a little bit unrealistic, but it's such a fucking flex, bro. That's cool. Like when I see a fucking badass move like that on some fucking 80s Schwarzenegger shit, like I just have to respect it. I'm like, okay, that's pretty fucking cool. It Is it realistic? Probably not. Is it possible? Probably impossible. Is it cool? Fuck yeah, it's cool. So I'm on board for this. And it comes to Amazon Prime, I believe. Is that right?
Yep, it's an Amazon Prime exclusive. It was going to go to theaters last year, but it was delayed, and then it was picked up by Amazon. So
yeah. Actually, speaking of which, I was talking to a friend of mine. Probably mentioned this person on the podcast before, who works in a lot of movie advertising, and I was talking to them about Coming to America. And I was like, and what they told me is, I didn't know this. Maybe it's probably out there, but apparently that was meant for theater release, and then they bought it for Thingo, which I didn't know. I just thought they were just doing what they did with Borat. And
no, that was a huge acquisition from memory.
Yeah, well, what she told me is apparently that's one of Amazon's big moves right now. They're specifically looking for films that want cinema releases. But COVID's fucked them up, and they're just like, well, look, we're willing to give you a fuck ton of money, so you're guaranteed to make something back. You just got to let us have it. And it's a pretty enticing, it's a pretty enticing offer for a lot of, I think also for especially for films that are like not Avengers, like the B level, or high B level or lower A level sort of like action flicks, like your Extractions and shit like that. I think it's a really good thing for them to go to streaming. I think like the future of streaming probably is, or future of cinema probably is, you got to be really big to hit cinemas, or maybe in a niche indie audience, and that's it. I think like everything else, it's going to be more profitable to go to streaming. What you're experiencing right now is a classic Matt tangent. Like this is, we were talking about Tom Clancy's Without Remorse, and then Matt takes his thoughts and then travels off. Like, dude, he literally just said the words. You literally just said the words, the future of streaming in theaters. Like, how did you get from there to from Without Remorse? I don't understand. And I'm sitting here like, dude, I'm just like reaching for my producer's hat. Like, have you seen our Zoom chat? Like, our last two messages is like, let's try and wrap it up. Let's move on. No, but yeah, I do agree. You know what? Well, I said all that shit without remorse. Mic drop. Mic drop.
Nice.
Walking out.
That was a good one.
Look, before we get into WandaVision, something we usually open the podcast with is a what you been watching lately, guys thing. And something I just want to bring this up because we kind of said we'd talk about last episode, but we didn't. You told me to go watch Wrong Turn so we could talk about it. I watched it.
Very briefly.
Yeah. So I saw what you were trying to hint at. The movie does take a bit of a surprising turn. It takes a wrong turn. Would you say it's a wrong turn? How'd you feel about the whole we're not actually killers? Spoilers for a movie that you're probably not going to watch, guys. We're not actually killers. We are the Foundation, and we are just brutal barbarians. What did you think of that?
I really enjoyed it. I mean, because like I'm not married to the franchise, so I'm not coming at it with like, oh my god, they should be, like dumb fucking cannibals, like, or anything like that. Like, I kind of like came at it like being like, that's what I expected walking into the cinema, and walking out of the cinema, I was totally surprised. And again, for a movie to do that in 2021, to surprise me like that in the theater, like I was like, oh shit, man, like I really appreciate that. And like, like the whole kind of like, you came in here and you messed everything up. Like you are the lawbreakers. We did nothing. This was a peaceful society before you crossed our path, and you were told specifically not to walk off the beaten path, but you did. So I really enjoyed it, and I really liked that they kind of like had their own sort of like little trial, like they had their own little sort of like set of laws and rules that they live by. So I really,
fucking lawyer says that.
Yeah, no, I think like like that was it introduced ideas to a franchise, a very long running and very stale franchise that made it fresh again, in my opinion.
My thoughts are, okay, I love the fact there was a surprise. I love the fact it was something different. I like the fact that like when they went into the darkness place, those mutants there could be the crazy cannibals we see in the other films. Like that's where my mind went. It's like, oh, maybe that ties into the lore of this thing. I actually watched the original Wrong Turn before going into this, and the thing that really stood out to me was just like how the little things are better in the first half, like the way they set up the characters and all that. Like clearly, this is done by a screenwriter who's learned from his previous mistakes, and there's definitely an improvement in quality. Yeah, I found that interesting. I don't know if that made the movie any scarier, but it was interesting. I feel like they kind of jumped the gun a little bit at the very end where he comes to the house, but
that's what I said in my original review. I was like, I think there is a point where it takes it one step too far, where it believes it's too smart.
Yeah.
And like, I think it ends up being a little bit like, you shouldn't have taken that extra step. I appreciate you for taking that extra step, and I, applaud you and respect you for it. But it didn't work for me.
It could have been a deleted scene. I don't know. Yeah, the thing is, I could be swayed either way, I think. But weirdly, I've got my biggest compliment to the film isn't that twist though. I could be wrong, but I think it's meant to be PG-13 in the States. I could be wrong.
No
you
way.
think it's R?
Yeah, it's an R. Yeah, for sure.
Well, regardless, I think while there is some gore, there is a lot of implied violence, which I think is done really well. I actually think this film, when it's trying to be scary, it does a good job of building that up. Like there's a scene like when they're running and it's like kind of goes first person when someone comes at him, and the way where it's like they don't know, like the way it's all pieced together, especially in the horror moments. 8 times out of 10, I think it's actually done pretty well for a movie I walked into with low expectations for. Better than a lot of the other than a lot of the shit horror films we see these days. So I got some appreciation for that. Yeah. Is there anything else that you've seen lately that you think? Well, here's what I really want to get into, guys. A little news piece. Disney Stars is out, which I think is pretty cool. For those unknown, don't know, there's like 500 new movies or shows added to Disney Plus. I don't know about you, man, but it feels like I own a whole new streaming service. Have you had much experience with this? Have you looked at it much? What are your thoughts on Stars?
I think it's just called Star, but like
Star. Okay, my bad.
No, but also for people who are like, what the fuck are they talking about? Disney Star is only applicable to about 5 or 6 countries, I think.
It's a lot of Hulu stuff, right? It's like a lot of Hulu and other shit.
It's basically all of their like Disney's FX and 20th Century Fox kind of like stuff. So yeah, it's basically like the adult version of what they own now. So like they can now display their content. I haven't particularly had the chance to browse through it. My dad has been fucking loving it. Like every time like I walk in now, like he's always watching something. I think he watched what did he watch the other day? Hidden Figures, I think. But like I think Hidden Figures was already kind of like in the PG section, so it's just like, oh, all right. But yeah, no, he's loving it. And I am glad that there is more stuff on there now, because it's kind of like, outside of the Mandalorian and the Marvel stuff, there's not really that much there for an older audience.
Yeah.
So yeah, they did a fantastic job adding that kind of content to the app.
100%. Like before Mandalorian, there were times I was like, why do I even have Disney Plus? It feels useless, but it feels like my money's now worth it. Like sure, we got Mandalorian and WandaVision, but I feel like there's a good selection now. For those who don't have it, what's cool is like there's like a pin code you can put in to prove you're over 18, and you got your Deadpools and all that. But what's cool is like the Star stuff has affected other sections. Like if you go into the Marvel section, there's a whole bunch of new shows there now, like Runaways, and which is a show I wanted to watch. I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and some other stuff. But some new shows I've been watching that I've been really into. A lot of sci-fi comedy. So one of them is Solar Opposites, which I believe when it came out, there was 2 episodes, and now the new episodes are coming out week by week. But I think they're about to release season 2 on Hulu soon. It's by Justin Roiland, the co-creator of Rick and Morty. And you can really tell Dan Harmon's not there because they go way crazy with the comedy and way less on the character work. But if you're a fan of Rick and Morty, I definitely recommend checking it out. It is the same type of humor. There's one character, he's very similar to Rick with both his voice and attitude. Just while waiting for the new season of Rick and Morty, it's really cool to have that show. And I got into a show I never thought I would. So I love my Seth MacFarlane, and I wanted some more because I recently watched Ted 1 and 2 back to back. I started watching The Orville. Have you heard of The Orville, dude?
Yeah, I heard it's great. Apparently it's like the like Star Trek fans prefer it over Star Trek Discovery, which is interesting.
Yes. And what's even more interesting is I'm not a Star Trek fan. Like it never really clicked with me, but I now get it. Like I understand why people like Star Trek, and I can also see, weirdly, by watching what feels like a big fan film, I can see how other stuff I like has been affected by Star Trek. Like I'm watching this show, I'm like, oh, so Legends of Tomorrow was just them trying to do Star Trek. It makes sense now. This show, what's interesting is like the comedy really, like while they sell it as a comedy and all the ads, like they go, oh, Seth MacFarlane, blah, blah, the comedy really takes a backseat. Like the third or fourth episode is all about transgender rights, but like with aliens. I've just started season 2, but in season 1, there's a horror episode, which is done pretty well. There's an episode that feels like straight out of Black Mirror. The sci-fi writing and concepts are pretty well done, and it's got some good character work too. And I even found like a clip on YouTube where they're like, here are scenes that Star Trek Discovery clearly ripped off the Orville, and I'm watching like, oh, I can't argue with this. If you're into Star Trek, guys, watch it. It's surprisingly really good. I watched it expecting it to be not very good. I was hoping for some Seth MacFarlane stuff. I didn't come for the sci-fi high concept stuff, but I'm staying for it. It's pretty good, man. I'm really enjoying Star so far. Also, a lot of cool movies. Black Swan's on there, which I think is awesome. Can't wait to rewatch that. But yeah, look,
you only want to watch it for one goddamn scene. Fuck you. Don't pretend like you want to watch the entire movie.
I like Natalie Portman. She's a fine actress.
Sure.
And I stand by that statement. Speaking of Disney Plus, though, WandaVision, it was Agatha all along. Oh, what could that transition be? What could that segue be?
You said the title.
Exactly.
Does that count? Does that count if the title's there?
I see you've played this game before. You've outwitted me once again, good sir. It's time for our fortnightly chat about WandaVision. We have 2 new episodes. Episode 7, Breaking the Fourth Wall. Very The Office, Modern Family. And then we got Previously On, which is more of a Marvel-y episode. How should we break? You usually lead this section, my friend. How about you kick things off for WandaVision?
Yeah, let's just talk about it. So episode 7, obviously Monica was plotting her return. Wanda was kind of like this is the Halloween sort of episode, right? So, you know, we get a bit more of like, quote, Pietro, Fietro, as what's her name, as Agatha calls her. Yeah, this was a good episode. It didn't really do too much for me. Like, I was just like, oh yeah, it's good. Like, you know, like this ends with her kind of like expanding the barrier. It was a good episode. Like, I'm not criticizing it or anything like that. I thought it was a great episode. Like, it just didn't have that much kind of like sort of going for it. Like, you know, it's just like, oh, cool.
I think with these last batch of episodes, you can tell the writers they're really excited about the drama side of things and the Marvel side of things, and they're definitely showing more attention to that than the sitcom stuff, which I guess I'm okay with. I'm okay with just getting a little bit. I don't think we're going to get anything of that for the last episode. I could be wrong. It seems to be it could go anywhere maybe at this point. But yeah, I think it was cool to see how they took on different genres. I think maybe the van stuff might have been an Arrested Development reference. I'm not sure. It was cool to see Darcy back. Yeah, I guess it's had the same problem we had last episode, where the second episode just revealed so much, it just made the other episode just dwarfed it in comparison, I guess. But yeah, it's, as always, I can see how, what I can say is I can see how Monica Rambeau is being teed up for Captain Marvel 2. I imagine she'd be probably a big character in that. Yeah, fun stuff. I love WandaVision, and the cliffhanger, man. That fucking cliffhanger was intense.
Yeah, that cliffhanger was awesome, dude. Wait, is that the? Is this not? No, this isn't the one that closed off with her expanding the wall. No, this is the one where fucking hell, Jesus Christ, sorry guys.
You're confusing because they're both Halloween episodes, both breaking the fourth wall and Halloween Spectacular. Both sort of take place around Halloween because the circus is present in this episode too.
Yes,
is why you're confusing them. Yeah.
So this ended with Wanda in the basement. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
Holy shit! And then Agatha all the time.
They do expand the aspect ratio, or they change the aspect ratio. That's what I thought
they
you meant.
fuck with that all the time. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. Let's move on to previously on. I think that's the one everyone wants to talk about. This episode. This episode should have come sooner, I think. I think this episode would have benefited a lot by having it maybe around episode 4 instead of episode 8. And that's not to say that I didn't like it. I loved it. I think it was very emotional. We've got that now famous line of Vision. What is grief if not
love, persevering.
Persevering. Yeah, it's fantastic line. We find out that Tyler Haywood was lying all along, and that she did not break in. We got the West Coast Avenger Vision. I saw this episode a couple times actually. I like that we see the Stark missile, right, like unexploded.
Yes. Yeah.
And that was actually exactly kind of like how I imagined it too. Like when she's describing it in Age of Ultron, I actually
Same.
yeah, dude, like it's at an angle kind of thing, and they're just kind of watching it. But I like the connotation that she specifically didn't make it blow up. Like Agatha says, you didn't make it blow up, did you? And this is obviously before she gets her powers, like from the Infinity Stone. So that was like really interesting to watch. And then we see
it feels like they're trying to set up a mutant storyline for X-Men.
I don't want to go too far down that. Hold up. I don't want to go too far down that weed. I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. It's way too far. I will be here all fucking day.
Well, what I want to say is because Agatha talks a lot about the Scarlet Witch, which is so good to hear, because a few episodes ago when what's his name was like, does she have a silly name? I was kind of like, this is the chance. So it's like, I love how they've set it up, because what I find interesting is because a lot of people want to talk about mutants and stuff, but which is fair enough to do, but it kind of feels like because she hasn't actually said the word, she could just be talking about witches. Like clearly there are other witches in this universe through the Salem trials. So I don't think we should rule anything out just yet.
Wait, what do you mean? Like in the Scarlet Witch isn't a thing?
No. As in, a lot of people are assuming that when Agatha's like, I know what you really are and all that stuff, everyone's like, she's talking about mutants. She's talking about mutants. Like, maybe she's not.
Oh, no, she's talking about the Scarlet Witch. No, yeah. She's talking about the Scarlet Witch. She's not talking about mutants. She's like, I know exactly what you are. You're the Scarlet Witch. Because, it seems like that the Scarlet Witch is something to be coveted. Like, it's kind of like a legend.
It's like a something, prophecy of
exactly
the one of the witches or whatever. Yeah.
Totally. And I kind of want to talk about Agatha a bit as well, because Agatha kind of feels like, although she is set up as this, quote, big bad, she kind of seems to be this person who is making Wanda realize who she is, possibly for her betterment. It seems like that there's a little bit of and I would 100% be on board with that. And I have some evidence for that too, because at the start when we see her being kind of chastised or whatever, cast out by her coven, she says, I want to be good. So maybe this is her wanting to be good. I really appreciated what they did with Agatha's character in this entire episode. I thought it was fantastic. But again, I think hold up, Matt. I think before before you get into your thoughts, I think this does come a bit late. I think this should have been probably like a mid-season kind of thing. And like that's the kind of like risk that you kind of run by creating the hype engine like week by week, right? I mean, like this episode kind of stops everything in its tracks, right? I mean, like where we should be moving the show forward, we've taken a pause and gone backwards, and that's not a good thing if you're watching it week by week. You know, I reckon I'd feel different if I was binging it. You know, I think if I was binging it, I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. So this takes a pause, but, you know, next episode will be, all right, let's fucking do it. But week by week, it feels a little, I feel a little robbed, if that makes sense.
Well, I think I could add to that. I got two responses to things you said. First, I just want to say, while you said Agatha's like doing it to her benefit, I feel that's like half of it. I think the other half might be
to Wanda's benefit, not
to
Agatha's.
Wanda's benefit.
Yeah.
But I think Agatha's idea of benefit to Wanda might be different to a lot of other people. Like I think she thinks you've got to be your true self, which is might be this evil, crazy witch, maybe, you know, and that may also benefit Agatha as well. Like I think there may be a whole thing where it's like there might be some story thread of like, you think this of me, but you don't know me, or you think this is what's right, but it's not actually right. Like you think you know what's best for me, but it's actually evil or something. I think it could go in that direction. But the other thing is, so I was talking off air to a friend of the show, Carlos, and he kind of said the same thing as you. And he was like, kind of saying like this should have happened earlier. A lot of similar points, and what I said to him is like, yeah, they essentially put the show on hold to make a reveal. And I guess you could say it's a little telling, not showing or whatever. And I was okay with it, I think, because it came with a lot of fan service, so the fanboy in me was happy. But I think what the real problem is from a screenwriting perspective is that the reason it feels such like a big pause in the movement and the pacing of the story is because this is the second time they've done this. I remember episode 4 was all let's flash back through the last 4 episodes and see what happened on the other side of things. And they've essentially kind of done that 3 times because at the end of the last episode, it was Agatha all on showed a bunch of screen flashbacks to a bunch of things. And then this was a whole episode tying back into a bunch of movies and flashbacks. So it's kind of like the third time in the show, not including the previously ons that had flashbacks in it. This is kind of like the third time they've done it. So it really does feel, I think really what's happened is the brief that the showrunners had for making the show was provide a lot of character and context to yeah, but I think that's the result of like their approach was non-linear, but the way they arrived at that approach was them going, we want to provide more backstory for Wanda. We want to provide more meat to a character. How do we do that? And Marvel often tends to think, oh, the way to do that is to drive into people's nostalgia by tying things back into previous movies. Like we saw that in the recent Spider-Man movie. We'll tie into that next. We saw that in Avengers Endgame was basically non-stop of that. And I think that's why I got excited about this episode at first, is because it felt like Endgame to me, going to these previous points or moments we knew about Wanda's life and expanding on them. I'm sure Hawkeye show is going to do the same with Budapest.
I just think, man, like doing it the episode before the last one is just like, I don't know. It feels a little bit of a cop out.
It's not unheard of, but I would argue, and I'm not saying this would make the show better, but if you were to make this episode earlier in the show, where does the show go from that? Because the hook of the show has been trying to discover what's up. That's what keeps people coming back. And I think just ending on a cliffhanger of, I don't know, Agatha did something evil. What are we going to do now?
Oh,
that's not going to get people talking as much, you know? So I think it's artificial. It's an artificial way of creating conversation, making us excited and wanting to watch the show more. But it does, like, it's like what you said. That's the trade-off. It ruins the momentum sometimes. And I think if they did this one less time, it wouldn't have felt as bad. Like if episode 4 didn't exist, this episode might have felt better. Or if this episode didn't exist, well, we wouldn't have the problem, I guess, because episode 4 would have already done it. But yeah, it feels like they're reusing a similar tool they've already used before. But I'm okay with it because I'm a fucking nerd and I love the fucking fan service. But I've only watched it once, so maybe I'll change my mind watching it again. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I am saying that, yeah, sure, let's move this episode to earlier in the season, but minus the Agatha reveal, right? Because the Agatha reveal is kind of like what's keeping us coming back. I think the Scarlet Witch Wanda going through her history, that's a bit more like you can have that a bit earlier in the season, I think. But I don't know.
You could. I think would change the context of it, but you are right in a way. I think it kind of depends on what they do with it next episode, right? Because it depends on why they chose to reveal it now. Is it because that is what motivates her to become Scarlet Witch and she's got some new powers? Or is it because they just wanted something to throw at the end? It's hard to say for certain now, but you are right. It could be moved, but it's hard to say certain without knowing what they're going to do with that next.
Also, what the fuck's up with her children? They're real? Her children are real?
I actually had this thought watching it. I've wrestled with this, and I've sort of landed on the behind the scenes of Marvel. They wanted to have her to have kids as quickly as possible, so they're going to say they're real. It kind of doesn't make sense. I think they're just going to be like, whatever happens in the dome or the hex becomes real.
Whatever happens in the dome stays in the dome.
Well, I think it's the opposite. I think whatever happens in the dome will leave the dome, but it's just Marvel's way of going, we want those characters to exist in the universe. Find some fucking way to do it, because I think it's very obvious they're gearing up for a Young Avengers movie, which will have fucking Ant-Man's kid and maybe Miss Marvel, and it's just going to be a young event. Maybe Peter Parker will be in it. We'll see. We'll get into Spider-Man in a sec. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what the fuck happens. I'm excited for the next episode. Yeah, I think we're done sitcom stuff now.
We're done.
What we do know though is that there will be potentially a big cameo or reveal or actor in the next episode. I would like to hear, do you have any speculation of who or what that could be?
Well, actually, the news broke today. Well, not news, but an interview is going around. It's making the waves with the director, Matt Shackman. And he's kind of like, man, hey, just letting you guys know, Paul Bettany is kind of like put himself in a bit of a corner by saying that there is a cameo at the end of the season, because now we need to, now people might be disappointed that that kind of expectation might not be reached.
Right. It might just be someone walking by, like, hey guys, bye.
Not even that. It might just be. It might not even be anyone. It might be Paul Bettany.
It's like his wife or something. Or
listen to this. It might be Paul Bettany making an in-joke and saying that here's an actor that I've never worked with before, my fucking self with the wide vision. I don't know. I'm not really much of a speculator. If I was going to say someone, I'm going to say Doctor Strange, considering that this leads into Multiverse of Madness, right?
Yeah.
If there is one pick, it's probably going to be that for me.
I've low-key been expecting him this whole show. Yeah, there we go, puns. I've been kind of waiting for Doctor Strange to pop up at some point. It just, especially after this last episode, it kind of makes sense. It's all about magic. He could be a great Deus Ex Machina to just wrap things up with. Although it would feel a bit left field. Again, Carlos, in our conversation, he came up with a really left field pick. He's like, I think it's going to be Mephisto played by Hugh Jackman. And I'm like that'd be cool, but that's a huge swing there. I would love, because this is the first Marvel release since Endgame. I would love if they somehow had Stan Lee in it. Like we find out he had actually shot a cameo we didn't know about or something. I don't know, just because it's the first, I think, project we've got that he hasn't been in yet.
I'm going to go ahead and talk about Carlos's theory.
Oh, yeah?
That is not going to. I'm sorry, dude. I love you, and I look up to you. I look up to your podcast. That is not going to happen. Snowball's chance in hell. Like, I mean,
I think it's a huge swing.
Well, I mean, like, think
that,
about it. Like this was because Carlos. Like we were just chatting about this as well. We were just talking about the spec, like who we think is going to come up in the next episode, right? So he also told me, well, his thought was Mephisto and played by Hugh Jackman, but I'm like, man, like if they've bought 20th Century Fox, and if they're going to bring in mutants, if there's going to be one mutant they bring in, it's probably Logan somehow, and it's probably Hugh Jackman. But if they don't bring him in, then having Hugh Jackman, the most recognizable mutant, playing a different character, like it's just I can't see it happening, especially this soon.
Yeah. Especially
right?
if they do plan to bring another actor in for Wolverine, I guess that would be
right.
That would be a bit confusing for some people. Look, I don't know if this will happen, but I would love to see Ultron make some form of anything, just because he's so well connected to both Wanda and Vision because of the movie that they both come from. I would love there to be some, like, I know we got a reference, but I'd love to see something. I don't know if it'll happen, probably not, but yeah. I think Doctor Strange make the most sense. At the end of the day, though, I'm okay if there's no one. And the show
I'm fine with that. Yeah,
contained.
Yeah, as long as it wraps up everything that's happening right now, which is already a lot of balls in the air, right?
Yeah, I want it to feel self-contained at the end of the day. I don't want it to end on a cliffhanger that ties into a movie, because that will make the show, that'll feel cheap, and that'll make the show feel a bit incomplete for me. Yeah, I feel like Marvel knows that.
But that's Marvel, right? I mean, like even the movies don't all have a full-on 100% completion, right? I mean, like there's always something hanging off.
Yeah, but they still, for the exception of maybe one or two projects, while they may leave some like balls in the air, this is ignoring the post-credit sequences, which are basically trailers, let's be honest. Most of them do a good job of, if it's your first time going in and watching it, you can understand what's going on. I'd say the only major exceptions might be like Endgame and Infinity War. But like if you walk in on Winter Soldier, you don't have to see the first Captain America. If you walk in on Ragnarok, you don't have to watch Thor 1 and 2. There's a benefit in watching them though. And yeah, and weirdly, I mean, the most surprising about WandaVision is I've spoken to a couple of different people who aren't Marvel fans who like the show. And it always surprises me how none of them seem confused. Like my girlfriend started watching this show not knowing Vision was dead. And I'm just like, what? And like, she's like, yeah, I get it. I'm like, how? You don't know? You haven't seen, I've seen 20 movies. You're telling me you're getting the same. She's probably not getting the exact same experience, but yeah, Marvel's good at that shit, man.
Well, dude, Age of Ultron was trending last week. Like people were watching Age of Ultron and finding a new appreciation of it. Yeah.
That's funny. That is actually really funny. Look, you wanted to talk quickly about, which, and admittedly, at one point I did have it on the agenda, but you brought up Spider-Man's new name. We got a few cool memes. They got a cheeky reveal. The name is, what was it again? Spider-Man No Way Home. No Way Home.
Such a good host. I love it.
I got it right though, right?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you got it right.
So did you die?
But did you die?
Yeah.
No, it's Spider-Man No Way Home. So, man, like this was... Dude, it felt like the internet was waiting with bated breath when this was happening. So, you know, it was just like...
Great marketing.
Now, I'm going to challenge you on that. I don't think it worked as well as you think. I think it just kind of like... I think it fell on its face a little bit. So, you know, it's a work day for us here in Australia when it's happening. Tom Holland, about 10 a.m., drops uploads a photo and a behind-the-scenes photo of Spider-Man, like of the new film, and reveals the title as being Spider-Man Phone Home, which is obviously not correct. But the internet went wild, and the trade started writing their own their own articles. And then Jacob Batalon, who plays Ned in the movie, dropped his own title, and it was Spider-Man Home Slice. It was Spider-Man Homewrecker. Sorry. Might be getting around, mixed around, whatever. But then he commented on Tom Holland's one and been like, "Wait, hold on, you got a different one? What the fuck?" And then Zendaya commented her one, and she dropped her one, but she waited about 2 hours, which is really interesting. And it's just why did you wait, kind of thing. So.
Sorry, I was in the shower. Sorry,
yeah,
guys.
I don't know.
My phone
it
was
happened.
on silent.
It happened so late. I was actually kind of refreshing my Twitter feed because I was like, okay, we're gonna get the title revealed soon, right? She dropped hers, and it was Spider-Man Homewrecker or Home Slice. Sorry, hers is Home Slice. Jacob Batalon's is Homewrecker. So, and then that night, I read on Twitter that in a couple hours, Tom Holland is about to appear on Jimmy Fallon for Cherry, because he's about to promote Cherry. So everyone on Twitter and everyone on the internet, everyone on the trades thought that he was going to reveal the title during that interview. But the Jimmy Kimmel interview comes and goes, and it's all about Cherry. There's nothing about Spider-Man except that... So Jimmy Kimmel posed the question, hey, is Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire going to appear in the movie? He says no, he denies it. Basically, that's what he's supposed to do. I don't believe him. I don't think anyone believes him. But they've
been spotted on set. At the very least, they shook hands.
I don't think they have been spotted on set. I think it's rumored that they're on set.
No, there's a photo of there was Tobey Maguire. I know about Andrew, but there's a photo of Tobey Maguire. He wasn't in costume though. I don't think. Okay. He was having a coffee or some shit.
All right. Well, but either way, he denies it. Whatever. There's no title. And then 24 hours goes by, and then we get the official kind of video dropped, the official video drop, and it's it's a fantastic video. Them walking out of John Watts' kind of office because Tom Holland is known for leaking stuff and blah blah. So they were the story is that he gave them all three different titles. I mean, obviously, that's not what happened. This is all for marketing, right? I mean, this is not...
They love milking this joke.
Yeah,
they fucking love milking this joke.
100%. But I don't think it... I think it's really... I don't know. I think it caused a lot of, confusion and just, really weirded people out a bit because they waited so long to reveal it after it happened. And I think, because that's the news cycle, right? I mean, technically it's not that long, 24 hours, it's not that long. But if you're in relative to what's happening here, I think that is long. Relative to what's happening here, I think 24 hours is a long time to wait for this to happen.
Well, look, you're probably right. There was probably in the sense that there's a good chance maybe it didn't go as smoothly as they planned. Maybe the Cherry thing wasn't meant to happen. Maybe Marvel didn't have control over that interview, and maybe Zendaya was meant to post earlier, but I know her social media manager fucked up, or someone, or who knows, right? But I think at the end of the day, the goal of a lot of in this social media world, the goal is to get people talking, and by creating confusion, they generate conversations, and so. But I think if they drop the ball, I don't know if they have. I don't have metrics in front of me, but if they did, it's the fact that yes, they could generate conversations for a day, encourage people to make memes, which is great for user-generated content. But when you hear "No Way Home," it's
yeah, okay,
there's
cool.
nothing. There's no element to surprise you. When Thor was Ragnarok. Comic book nerds go, oh, that's a major comic book storyline. That's amazing. The biggest one I think it's ever happened besides Endgame, just because there's a lot of thing about the title. I feel like Marvel really likes, it's a new territory for them. They like finding new ways of guessing the title. The biggest one was Civil War, because for a while we were told the name was going to be Serpent Society. And then they go, actually, it's a different name. And they can click the thing.
There is an amazing video on YouTube of him doing that.
Yeah, but that was I have a feeling maybe they're chasing that high again. They went, that's cool, and then they sort of managed to make it a thing for Endgame, maybe accidentally. And I think maybe here what they tried to do is artificially try and recreate that. And the reason it didn't work is because No Way Home is not an exciting title. It doesn't tie into anything. Now, I have a theory of what it really means.
So does the entire internet, but let's see.
I'm
Let's see
sure.
what you got. Let's see what you got.
And I'm sure this is not unique. I haven't seen it read anyway, but I'm sure someone else did. There is talk about how Tom Holland... I don't know. Actually, this is the most confusing thing for me. I've seen conflicting reports about Tom Holland's contract, whether it's up or not up. What I think might have happened here is we know that there was a problem with Sony getting the rights back after the second movie because the agreement was they had to make $1 billion within a certain time limit. Neither of them did. And Tom Holland begged to stay with Marvel or something, and they came to some agreement. We never found out the details of that agreement. My theory is, I don't know if his contract is up or if they have found a way to continue him on, but maybe they've written this film in a way to potentially close Spider-Man off. Maybe he does get trapped in another dimension, another timeline or whatever, and he can't come back. And then that way Sony can be like, now we've got Spider-Man and we can make our own Spider-Man films without Marvel, without conflicting with them. Because the whole big thing, we keep seeing with stuff like Venom and stuff, is that Sony really want to tie into the MCU, and MCU do not want their Sony films tying in with theirs because clearly there's a quality difference. And Sony really, really wants Spider-Man to fight Venom. So I have a feeling maybe they've come to some agreement where it's like maybe Sony can have Spider-Man or something, but
I don't know.
Condition,
we'll never find out about this.
Yeah,
this is never going to...
I think we might have an idea after this movie comes out, but I imagine Kevin Feige is the type of guy to go, if we're going to lose Spider-Man, we're going to lose him on our terms. And he would be like, we want to be disconnected from your shitty Sony films, and we want to be able to send Spider-Man off in a big hurrah. So maybe the point of having these other Spider-Men in the film is so to have a big Tony Stark send-off, maybe that's their goal. I imagine if they can find a way to make it work, they will, and they will do Spider-Man 27 together. But yeah, I think maybe that's the idea. Maybe the title is meant to drive home the fact that after this, he's not connected to the MCU. Who knows? We'll know when we see the movie. We'll see.
We'll know. We'll know when we see the movie. For me, that's a bit of a long shot. I think they're a little bit more collaborative than a lot of people give them credit for. Right? I think Sony and Marvel work pretty closely together, or you'd want to think so, at least, right?
Well, I've always had my doubts ever since we saw that interview with Kevin Feige and what's her name? The one,
Emmy
the one where she's like, yeah, when she keeps saying we're connected, and Kevin's kind of talking around it, and after seeing how,
but that's Kevin though, right? Yeah, I mean, that's Kevin Feige.
But also with seeing the limited interaction with Venom and Morbius. Can you remember Morbius is a thing coming out, believe it or not? It feels like, Marvel want to distance themselves, but they also really want to keep Spider-Man as much as they can. So we'll see. We're in unprecedented territory. We've never really seen studios work like this together with a character in a cinematic universe before. It's interesting, but it's all speculation now, so it's
the
kind of
cool thing
useless.
is that we're getting it this year, which is awesome.
Oh, thank God. Let's move on though. It is review time. We've only got one review this week, guys. I know. Try not to cry, but we've been recording for 1,000 years, so I hope you enjoy this action-packed.
My fingernails have grown so much.
Oh, you're welcome. We've got long beards. We had no beards at the start of this episode. Now we do. But take us away. Take us away, man. What is your review for The Little Things?
You know him, didn't you? Then you had that one little feeling, but you waved it away. You should have listened to that one little feeling, just like I'm listening to you now. You can talk to me. I'm all a friend you got.
So The Little Things is an interesting movie. Well, it's actually not that interesting. That's the interesting part of it, is that it's not that interesting. This is a movie directed by a guy named John Lee Hancock, and he's an okay director. He's done some stuff. But the cast here is pretty much what everyone would come for. It's Denzel Washington, it's Jared Leto, it's Rami Malek, that trio. And those three, that's three Oscar winners right there, rounding out your...
That should be enough to sell you a ticket, yeah.
Exactly. But this movie was, by John Lee Hancock's own admission, written 20 years ago by him. And it feels like that because it feels very, very dated. Like, this is a crime thriller. There's a guy going around town doing murders, and like there's two cops who team up to obviously like hunt him down. One of the cops has a shady history, right? And all of this is kind of like, it feels like John Lee Hancock walked out of David Fincher's Seven and was like, I want to make that. And it just didn't really pan out. Like, this movie is so desperately trying hard to be like Seven, even like kind of like having its big climactic moment out in the desert. And it feels like structurally it's really trying to be Seven, and it's just not. It comes off as being, like there you can see the point that it's about to hit. It's like, okay, so here's this scene, and then here's that scene, and I bet you that scene's about to come up, and it does. It 100% does. But when Jared Leto's character enters the frame, that's when shit starts getting interesting, because Jared Leto, this is a fantastic performance by Jared Leto. And like, all three of them are great. All three of them are solid. And Jared Leto, not only holds his own against Denzel Washington and Rami Malek, but I think is the better performance out of the three. He's not in it as much as the other two, but he is genuinely fantastic in this movie. And I think, that is the strong point of this movie. It's the cast. But like, it's just so predictable, and it's just so like meh. But like, look, this is coming from someone who lives and breathes crime dramas, right? I mean, like, I love this genre. But I think
that gives you a unique perspective on, like, you have more ability to be critical, right?
I guess.
That could be a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, man, like, it just feels like a very dated script. And it's not, it's not directed in a flashy way or anything that's technically worth mentioning, right? So like, all of it just kind of like feels a little meh. Like, it feels very middle of the road. It feels very bland. I would check it out on streaming when it comes to streaming. I wouldn't rush out to the theater to go see it, but yeah, that's the little things. And it sucks because, like, with this kind of cast, with these three leads, you do want to see more. Like, you want to see just electricity between them, but it unfortunately just didn't really go that way for me.
I don't know why, but your review is giving me flashbacks to our review of 21 Bridges. I don't know why, but I feel like, yeah, that was also a one where it's like, I kind of expected it to be really flashy. And it's like, oh, it's kind of like just a typical crime drama. Yes, that's cool too.
That one was a bit more action oriented than this. This one's a bit more. It's a bit more Zodiac. It's a bit more Seven. Again, the David Fincher, like, it's dripping with Fincher sauce. And it feels like he's really trying to be Fincher, but he's just, I mean, no one can be Fincher.
That finger licking good Fincher sauce. Love it.
100%.
Do we have an MDF game this week? We don't.
No, we don't. We are tapped out.
It's our first gameless episode. Oh, second? Okay. In a while. It's a special episode, guys. But hey, you got an amazing interview at the start of it. Something we didn't review this week that I was really looking forward to, but I'm seeing reviews that are crushing my soul, is Tom and Jerry. Apparently, I'm seeing a lot of reviews saying that Tom and Jerry are barely in the Tom and Jerry movie, and they focus on these live action people. And if that's true, like, that's, I don't know why I wanted to say this, but that's heartbreaking.
You let yourself get hyped up for this so much, and I told you when we talked about this trailer, dude, I was just like, man, like, I want it to be good for you, but all the signs are not pointing that way.
Like, the animation style was there. You got so much. It seems to be a no-brainer how to make that movie good, but like, it's just, it reminds me of like when I first heard of the Sonic movie. I was like, why the fuck would you put real people in it? But they pulled it off. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to watch that film now, but just because hearing that just makes me go, then what the fuck is the point of watching this shit? Anyways, guys, those are all our thoughts about all the films and all the movies and all the TV shows that came out this past fortnight. This has been, I don't know why, but I'm getting nostalgic because it's feeling like one of those old school upcoming attractions episodes when we just fucking went on everything. But it feels like the world's getting back to normal. We have cool shit to talk about again. Never a dry moment. So thank you very much for joining us, guys. Look, in case you are new for some reason, We are on Facebook. You can like us on Facebook. You can follow us on the Instagram. You can join the After Party, which is our Facebook community group, which currently has 333 members. Can we get to 666 by Halloween? Help us out there. We can get that way. We can all summon Satan together, and we can all, I don't know, have an orgy with demon spawn. I don't know. Anyways, right. I'm going to leave on that fucked up note. But yeah, buy some merch from midnightdoublefeature.com. We have amazing, awesome, lovely coffee mugs and t-shirts that will make you look sexy as hell. And we have a Patreon. We can hear all the latest exclusive episodes and video interviews. What was our most recent bonus episode? It was Paranormal
Activity.
That's right, Paranormal Activity. That's a big film right there. We've also got some big ones on there. Definitely check that out, guys. And our next feature presentation's coming out. Have we locked that one in yet?
Yeah, we are covering The Gift, directed by Joel Edgerton.
That's right, The Gift. So get ready for that episode coming out very soon on Midnight Double Feature. Ladies and gentlemen and other
Matt, get
genders,
us the fuck out of here. Jesus Christ.
I'm Matt. I am Matt. That is Zoheb. I'm going to drag this out really long to piss him off because like us on Twitter. I'm kidding. Fuck you. All right. I'm Matt. That's Zoheb. Thanks very much for hanging out, guys. We love you. Say hi to Mum for me. Give her a kiss. Mwah. Laters.